As it is written, the kingdom is within us. Come together and discuss the issues within the kingdom. Speak your peace. Speak the truth. For the kingdom is at hand. Kingdom Conversations.
Peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings to the whole house, to the number one team that's on the planet that the Father surnamed, the number one team that's been under punishment, under judgment, that's been getting their head caved in and kicked in by the Father, the Creator who spoke everything into existence, and that's the kingdom of the Israelites. Put a 7 up if you believe that everything that your brother C said, because there's nothing that he said that wasn't in the book. I want y'all to put us. I'm starting y'all off early. Put a 7 up. I need some response from the family in the chat. Father, we thank you once again for another conversation with our people, your people, the people that you surname. Somewhere in the book, somebody get that precept where it say he called you the apple of his eye. Somewhere else in the book it say, touch not thine anointed. Snakes of America and this wicked construct, you've been touching the children, you've been touching the widow, you've been touching the fatherless, but the Father see you. And he got a record and documented. Father, we thank you for documenting everything that's going on the earth, that has gone on the earth. You got a record of it. And that they can lie and say, this didn't happen or that didn't happen. But Father, we thank you for your records that you keeping. There's nothing that happened on the earth that you don't have a record of. They can lie and talk about CRT. They can lie and say that they did not do gator bait. They can lie and say that they did not do the heinous acts that they did. But Father, we thank you for the record. But Father, we mostly thank you for not choosing us, but we thank you for sending your son. We thank you for sending first fruits, the only begotten. Y'all know that precept where it say, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with him. It also says somewhere in there that the word was made flesh. Now you have to ask yourself this question, folks. If he said that if that precept said in the beginning was the word, but the word was made flesh, that means you have to ask yourself, what was the word that they're talking about? What is that word that they're talking about? And then if and then the man who the father said was his son, he said, this is my son in who I am well pleased. If he's the word, what word is he? Because the man told you specifically what word he was. He said, I come in the full volume of the book. Thank you, Mashiach, for coming in the full volume of the book. But we also thank you for sending your stand-in, the Ruach HaKodesh. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Son. Thank you, Spirit. Because without the Ruach, we would not be able to not only decipher the book, we would have already all been buried. Us along with our ancestors. You wouldn't have no diaspora. And I'm not just talking about the brothers and sisters in the snakes. I'm talking about the brothers and sisters that's in Brazil. What about the ones that's in the UK? What about the whole South America, Chile, Venezuela? What about the ones that's in Europe? What about the ones that's in Asia? They got Israelites in Belgium. They got Israelites in Germany. They got Israelites in France. You got them in Panama. You got them in the Caribbean. Our people, with a father say he was going to disperse you, which means that you wasn't going to be no homogenous clan Issachar. You're going to have Issachar everywhere. You're going to have Gad everywhere. Somebody told me this morning somebody's a Gadite. All praise to the Father. So, Father, we thank you. We thank you once again. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my sister who's going to speak to us about what's been going on in the damnable system that we live in, called the Western construct. Our sister going to tell us the plight of our children. We're going to have a discussion about the plight our children been in, and then we're going to discuss on how everybody in the chat and everybody that's Israelite and everybody that don't claim the culture, you could be a Christian, Episcopalian, an Israelite, RGB, whatever. Your people is under attack. It's all hands on deck. So I'm going to introduce my sister, Christina Laster. Christina, go ahead and introduce yourself to the fam, a.k.a. Y Society. Go ahead, sis. My bad.
That's all right. All hands on deck is the call to action here today. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to share this information and provide a call of action. And so my name is Christina Laster. Typically, you guys see me in the chat as Y Society, putting up the law, statutes, and commandments, those precepts that copy and paste in the chat when I'm trying to go through the show and hurry up and answer. And so it's just an honor. Shalom family, and I'm grateful to be here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you on, sis. And you know what? The Father is funny. And I'm going to get into that later, but I'm going to go ahead and greet the fam. Fam, you could have been anywhere, like I always tell y'all. Y'all could have been getting prepared to watch a baseball game because baseball season has started. And yes, I'm still in the sports. I haven't putting that down all the way yet because our family is still involved in sports. When I say my pet family, I'm talking about Israelites. I claim my Israelite brothers, no matter what they're doing, and prayerfully that they're doing good. But you could have been doing that. You could have been. It's morning time on where I live, so it's breakfast time. So you could be eating some good food, or you could be chasing your children around the house trying to get them in order so that you can go do something on the weekend. But you decided to join your brother C, and you decided to join KC on a very important episode of KC. And I was debating whether I was going to go down and greet the fam, but I can't do y'all like that. So I got to greet each and every one of y'all like how I normally do, and then we'll jump into the show. We'll start off the top with my good brother Charles Bird. Hey, shalom, brother. Peace and blessings to you. JPM, what's good, brother? Seem like I haven't seen you, JPM. When you're not here, it seem like you're not here in months. Please forgive me, brother, but it's good to see you. Jeremiah 30 and 20. Their children also shall be as aforetime. Huh? Who's he talking to here? Somebody's children get it like how they had it before. That's what that says to me. If I'm to break this down, your children get it like how your ancestors got it. And their congregation shall be established before me. So we're going to come together and we're going to be established as a nation before the Father. But then here's the punchline. As we are establishing in this awakening, I will punish all that oppress them. So rest assured, fam, when you see Jacob's trouble is not pointing at you. The best thing that you could do is get the hell out of the way and let the Father do his work. Don't be trying to cleave to the heathen. No, sir, no, ma'am. It should be the opposite. You should be cleaving to the book. You should be cleaving to your culture. You should be cleaving to the Israelites. I'm talking about each and every one of you, cleaving to basically yourself. Look into the mirror and cleave to you, not to nobody else. So I appreciate that precept, brother. Donovan Ben Yehuda. Peace and blessings, brother. Hope all is well. I trust all has been well with you, brother, and you have been great, and that the Father's been keeping you. Joe Scott, hey, brother. Hope you are well. Hope all is well with you. Nature's Graffiti, get saved. Will you please get saved once? Please, for what's in your life, get saved. Hope you're well, sis. Carolyn Gannon, shalom, sis. Peace and blessings to you. Hope all is well. Nalante, hope I'm pronouncing that right. Peace and blessings to you. Hope all is well with you today. Hawkeye 28. This is the superhero right here, the superhero Israelite. That's right. I know when I first called you, I knew that's what it was. Salama, peace and blessings to you. Hope all is well. My good brother Jabroni, the uncleavable. That's right. I'm in the uncleavable contention. That's the being a cleavable one is not my role. So I'm I'm with Jabroni in there. When they say, "Hey, what group do you work on, or do you?" I'm with the uncleavable ones. I don't mean that's not mean to say that I hate anybody. Just don't be trying to have me teach you nothing. Mashiach said it succinctly. He said, "I come." Who did Mashiach say he came for? He said he came for the lost sheep, and he didn't say he came for the southern kingdom. And see, our people had already been dispersed. Darnell Blackshear, peace and blessings, brother. Hope you are well. Mr. The Original School, greetings to Salt Earth Productions and the True Israelite on the chat. Peace and blessings to you, brother. Hope you've been well and that the Father's been keeping you. Pam Yah Israel, Shalom, sis. Hope all is well with you. Let me see. I see all them sevens that y'all put in there. Up next, Shalom. Up next, get saved because you're a troublemaker. And I be seeing you Israelites on these different channels kicking up a fuss, dropping precepts, talking about the book, this, that, and the third. Y'all be riding hard. And I'll say this. Y'all need to leave them people alone. Leave the heathen alone. He got enough to worry about with Jacob's trouble, let alone what you saying about the precepts that they never read. Tashi P, peace and blessings, sis. Hope you are well. Let me see. I'm gonna keep going down the line. You guys are already on fire, and I appreciate that. Yana Coleman, peace and blessings, sis. Hope all is well. Notorious Hebrew, peace and blessings to you. Hope all is well. And a Notorious Hebrew said it succinctly. She said, "Hey everybody, but here's what I want y'all to do. Y'all better greet each and every Israelite that coming to this chat. It's your duty to greet each other, because it's an honor and a privilege to even be talking to another Israelite. That's right. It's an honor and a privilege, and you should see it as such. Because if you see your heathen at work, your heathen friends that you call your friends at work, you're going to be smiling from ear to ear, and you got 500 teeth in your mouth, they'll see it. If you got 32 in your mouth, they'll see it. If you only got 5, they're going to see each and every one of them's teeth, because you're going to be happy to greet them. So you greet your family in here, and don't make it seem like they're strange. Point blank. I'm going to keep going down. Yaban Yaraka, I hope I got that right. Peace and blessings to you. Hope all is well. Kwam Yashran, peace and blessings. Yasa, peace and blessings to you. Hope you are well. A up next. I'll fool with it. But there are some brothers in hockey though. I'll say that, and they be doing their thing. But I'm not into that. Just like I'm not. And I hate to say this, but I only listen to our people when it comes to hip hop. And I'm not saying that because some of my favorite musicians happen to be from a European persuasion. So I'm not going to get that twisted, but I'm just saying that to say that I hear what you're saying. Omeya Yakita, peace and blessings, sis. Shalom. Let's see here. I need prayer. My grandson just died last night. Police are lying. Need advice for attorney. Omeya, what I will say is this. I'm going to, first of all, my condolences to you and the fam, sis. I don't have any words to say. I will say condolences to you. And what I will say is send us an email and we can have that dialogue immediately if we can lend a hand in that arena. If the police, not if the police, but the police remove one of our Israelite family, I pray that the Father swiftly move and destroy 100 of their family members. But that's not going to replace the law, sis. I know that. But at the same time, send us an email and we can not only pray for you, prayers up to the family. Prayers up to the family. Father, right now we ask that you go with this family that are grieving right now after losing a family member. And they lost a family member, what sounds like, and I don't have all the details, under heinous consequences. Father, give them peace. Give them understanding in this hour. Give them some comfort right now. They're going through it right now. And I don't have the words to tell someone when they're going through something, but I know that you send the comforter. I know that you have the words according to your book and send people in their lives that will allow them and help them to get through this time, because this is a very pressing time for this particular family. So, Father, just please give them some peace of mind. And not only give them some peace of mind, Father, but they also going to need some justice right now. And we don't want no 10, 15, 20, 30 year later justice. We need justice right now on this, Father. We need justice right when the brother got removed from this earth. That's when justice, the wheels of justice should have been rolling. And this heinous lying police officers, whatever they did, Father, bring them to justice, lock them up, or either give them the needle. Whoever is responsible and whoever is involved, Father, may they be brought to justice and that they get paid appropriately what they did. Somewhere in the book say, he that killeth with the sword must. And y'all know the rest of that precept. I don't even have to go into it. So, sis, send us an email. Our email, salt earth 144. Let me get the banner. Let me find the email on the banner so that I can make sure that you get the right email. I don't even have a banner created. That's a shame. Y'all don't beat me up too bad about that. Let me go to Salt of the Earth. I'm trying to find the banner to the email. It's saltoftheearth144@gmail.com. And so go ahead and send us an email and we can look into or converse with a lawyer and whatnot, depending on the level of the case and the visibility. I don't know if you're going to be dealing with a Benjamin Crump or, someone along those lines, but go ahead and send us. And if we can lend some advice or some help into that arena, we would definitely be doing that. So I'm going to move on. My good brother Kadar, hey, shalom, brother. Hope you are well. Hope the Father's been keeping you. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Let's see here. Let's keep going down. Josiah Ben Yehuda, Divide Seed. Shalom, brother. Good to see you. Peace and blessings. Lil Ray Miles. Shalom. Yashara and Ox and Barak. Peace and blessings to you. Hope all is well with you. Helen Folarami. Peace and blessings, sis. Hope all is well. Sharon O. Peace and blessings to you, sis. Hope you are doing well. Kara King. Peace and blessings to you. Hope all is well. We understand, sis, and tell Maria that we love her, and peace and blessings to her too, and to the rest of the family. I know it's hard, so I on times like this, I don't really have anything really to say. Only thing, I'm going to point you to the Father, and I ask that everybody in the chat lift up the sister and lift up the family, so that they can get some peace. Lift up the family. That's what we need to do this hour. We need to surround our sister, our family, and the rest of the family, and lift them up to the Father. Father, you seen what happened. You saw the whole thing. All right, we just told y'all, and the young man just turned 18. That's a pity and a shame. That's a pity and a shame. Greta Divers, peace and blessings. Hope all is well with you. Peace and blessings with you. Hope the Father's been keeping you. Mr. Nate Nice, shalom family, peace and blessings to you, brother. Hope you are well. Hope the Father's been keeping you. So it looks like I think I got everybody. 18-year-old grandson got removed from this earth, and we don't know the circumstances, and we don't know who's who or what's what, but the Father does know. The Father knows everything that happened, and He's going to return recompense on all of those. On every single one of them. Rest assured, it's not going to be no long time before He moving on this behalf. Yes, sir. Condolences and prayers up. Everybody better be praying for this sister Omiya's family. Prayers up, prayers up. That's right. So we're gonna get into the show. Just make sure you send us an email so that we can converse. And like I said, if we could be of any assistance or help, Salt of the Earth is here. That's what we're here for. So we're gonna do today's show is about our children in the system of the damned. And what do you mean by that, brother C, system of the damned? Well, our children have been in this high school to pipeline situation. And not high school to pipeline, but school to pipeline. Please forgive me, fam. I'm shaken by that, by my sister's news. So please forgive me. But I'm gonna keep going. We're gonna keep pressing. This system is a damnable system. The Western construct has had it out for all of the Israelites, point blank, period. And so, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna be introduced to our sister Christina Laster, and we're gonna get some information from her on how we should be moving this hour. Before we do that, I'm gonna read Exodus 22 and 20. I'm gonna put it in the chat, and I'm going to read it because the heathen, although they say that they're Christian, and I challenge anybody. I got $10,000. If anybody could show me anybody that's a Christian in the book and show me your religion, Christianity in the book. If you could do that, I got $10,000 for you, sitting right here on this table. Read Exodus 22 and 22. Ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. We have abdicated our responsibility when it comes to our children. And I don't just mean my children, the children that came from my marriage or my ex-marriage. I'm not talking about them. I'm just talking about all of our children, period. And I'm an old head. The old heads need to be ashamed of themselves on how we conducted ourselves. So first of all, I want to apologize for all the old heads. The culture of being a player, the culture of YOLO dolo, the culture of trying to get money and forsaking your children and whatever, and being a player and whatever else, getting all the women that you can, knocking up all these women you can. You a baby daddy, and you got 15 children by 8 different women. They removed the fathers out of the household for a reason. It's been a concerted, coordinated war against the Israelites. When they get up in front of the stage, in front of the camera on you, they talk about it's a war. The war is against you. And so there's been a distinct war against our children in this wicked society. Peace and blessings, sis Rochelle. Peace and blessings to you, sis. Hope you're well. Hope the Father's been keeping you. Love and peace. Shalom, peace and blessings to you. And so what our sister's going to do is she's going to break down. But here's what I want. Here's what I want to have happen. I don't want this to be a salt of the earth thing, nor do I want it to be a situation where you point them back to this video. No, I want you to, and we're going to give the information at some point. I want you to point them back to the sister's website, to the sister's YouTube channel. Point them back to the sister. All these other platforms that are bigger than Salt of the Earth. Salt of the Earth is a small fish. All of these other platforms that are bigger than Salt of the Earth should have this sister on the show, because the information that this sister has is going to bring us to a point where we all are playing a role in this, because this is our responsibility. There's 83 precepts in the book that talk about orphans and widows. 83. And that's just in the regular King James, the 66. We didn't even talk about the Apocrypha. We didn't even talk about the extra biblicals, which the heathen took out. And we know why they took them out. If you put leave them in there, surely it'll be easier for you to decode who the people of the book are. And it's not the 1948s. So here's what I want to have happen. Those of you who have connect and contact with people that have larger channels than Salt of the Earth, and I don't care if they're Israelite, I don't care if they're Christian, they could be a Baptist, they could be an Episcopalian, they could be RGB, they could be Pan-Africans, it could be Umar Johnson. It doesn't matter. They need to be in contact with this sister so the information could go forth so that all Israelites can be advocates, whether it be with your time, whether it be with your resources. Point blank, period. Because it's our duty to look after our family, and we need to get back to moving in that manner. If you're getting back to your culture, there will be no way that an Israelite child will be able to do something without another Israelite parent or Israelite checking them. That's what we need to get back to. Peace and blessings, Lynn. Peace and blessings, sis. Hope all is well. Linda Ricks, peace and blessings to you. Let me see. I'm gonna put the email in the chat. Give me a minute. Salt of the earth 144 at gmail.com. There's the email right there, sis. Put that in the chat, and then I'm gonna scroll it. I'm gonna go ahead and lock and load it up top so that you'll see it. There's our email, salt of the earth 144 at gmail.com. Go ahead and send us an email. That's exactly Notorious Hebrew, a village mentality. So it doesn't have. This is not about Salt of the Earth Productions. It's not about that. It's about us all doing what the book says we're supposed to be doing, and we're supposed to be looking out for our family. Point blank, period. Now, here's what we're going to do. Now, I'm going to get off my soapbox and I'm going to let the sister rock out. So, I already introduced you. So, go ahead and take your mic off mute, sis. And did I just kill myself? I just killed myself. I think I just shot myself in the brain. Sis, go ahead and take your mic off mute. And I'm going to go ahead and run through some questions.
Okay.
And so what I want you to do is introduce yourself to the family, and so we can get to know you a little bit. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, by my kids, I'm affectionately known as their mom. I have 4 grandchildren, 4 children. I'm a sister. I have 7 siblings. My parents are still living. My parents are also in the watching this, and so I want to say hi to them. My dad has told us that we are Gadites, and I understand that intimately, and so that may be part of the reason why the warrior is in me to advocate for our children. The first time I can remember thinking about law, policy, or code was when I was 7 years old. I had a profound dream that I woke up from, and I had a dream that I was a judge. And so from the time that I was 7, everybody that knew me, I would walk around and they asked me, what did I want to be when I grow up? And I said, I'm going to be a judge. And they'd say, are you sure? Yeah, that's what I'm going to be. And I just remember from that point in my life on seeing the world in a codified way and understanding what was happening, and then even looking in biblical scripture, just reading things in a codified way and understanding them by law, right? And for example, when I read enter into his courts with thanksgiving, I think of that as a court system versus just an area that we enter into, a dwelling, right? Different things that, just I would see highlighted in scripture or throughout life just were very codified to me. So that's what brought me to where I am now. I did work initially right out of high school. As I went to college, I worked for San Diego Unified School District for 13 years. I'm in California, for all of those you don't know where San Diego is. And I knew that wasn't the answer. I was in the system fighting for children, and it wasn't working. That it was just overwhelming, trying to say, no, this isn't right. This is the way that it should be done. You shouldn't treat children this way. And I noticed that when I left from early childhood education to go to not higher education as far as like college, but I left early childhood education, which is more like preschool, nursery age. And I went to special education, where I worked in an all special education school for 7 years. And the majority of the children that were there looked like us. Okay. Some of them didn't, but the majority did. And I recognized that none of those children were diploma bound. They were considered not eligible to receive a diploma. And if you talk to them and if you interact with them, you question yourself as to why not. Why were the children stuck in this one place and they couldn't get out? And so I started to really see from the inside that there was some issues. I decided to resign from that position because I knew that was not the way. I graduated from school, had my family, put my children in school, and immediately when I wasn't no longer working for the system. I'm not one of them anymore. I noticed that there was some attacks with my daughter, who's now 25. She was 12 then. And they were racial. And I would bring it up like, she's the victim of racism and discrimination and harassment. What are you guys going to do? Nobody did anything. They didn't even flinch. Okay. And so I decided to move her on from there. And then my younger children, I have 3 daughters and 1 son. I noticed that when I put my son in school, he immediately, I'm talking day 1, they started honing in on him. And he is a big boy, bigger than the children that were in his class that were not Black. And, he would do normal things, run to the door just like everyone else. Little kids, when it's time to line up, go outside for lunch, he'd run to the door just like them. And they would always complain. He's knocking them over, like as if he was doing it in a criminal way. And I said, he's 5. This is a normal child development type of thing. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I can have a reasonable discussion with the system and they're going to hear me out about my son being a 5-year-old. But instead of them doing that, they began the school to prison pipeline practices that you were talking about, which was criminalize everything he did. If he had a jacket on and accidentally bumped into the table and dropped papers off to the floor, that was a crime in the school system, right? He would get punished for that. If he had ran to the door and he's knocking the kids over like they're bowling pins, he would get punished for that. They had him doing what we call Caltrans, if you understand what that means, when people, if they're punished for a crime, they go on the freeway and they clean up the sides of the freeway with those trash pickers and trash bags. They had my son doing that during lunch in recess. They set up a system, 3 strikes and you're out. Okay, we know that in California, there's a 3-strike system. By the time he was in 2nd grade, he had suicidal ideations. I need you guys to hear me on this, because a lot of our children are talking about they wish they were not alive. Okay. They wish they were not alive by 7 and 8 years old. And where are they getting that concept from? So I began to battle the system. And the more that I battled the system and the more that I asked for reform, I got repression. And so I knew that wasn't the way. I ultimately sued them and went back for other kids, because I had parents who recognized my success in being able to use the law in a way that, he won. And so I started to go back for other kids. And as I went back for other kids, it just grew from a local to a state to a national thing that I did within the realm of policy and legislation. I've worked for several policy think tanks, sat on several policy boards, just doing this education advocacy. And so I'll stop and pause there just in case you have any questions about what I shared so far.
I did, but I didn't want to interrupt you. But I did have a question. So you said that your children experienced racism, starting with your young female children. What was that?
So my daughter, when she was 12, she went into a middle school and, she was just walking down to her class, had her backpack on, and a group of white students yanked her from behind down on the ground, and were calling her, how they try to call us the N-word. I don't want to get the channel, silenced.
You can say how they said they called her. It was calling her a nigger.
Yep, and with the hard R on it. My kids say that's the hard R, Mom. And you can't say the hard R. And so that's funny that you are able to say it, because that's exactly what they said. They called her niggers. They said she was ugly. And this group was starting to harass her every day. She would be at PE. These girls would follow her. And I approached the school police. I approached the school principal. I approached everybody that I knew from working in the system to talk to about my daughter. And they said, you know what? We can't do anything about it, because these kids learn this stuff at home, and you know how that is, right? Like, no, you should be able to keep her safe, just like you're allowing for a safe place for them to conduct themselves in this behavior. You're allowing for them to develop and foster this behavior in the school environment. They refuse to keep her safe. And as a matter of fact, they told me after I complained so many times that they could put her in a juvenile justice system class to train her. And I said, well, that's not appropriate because she didn't commit a crime and she shouldn't be, receiving a consequence for being a victim. And so immediately I went into the office and I said, disenroll my kid. She's not coming back. And I knew how to educate my own children. So from that moment on, I educated her at home. And, what I thought was a problem that may have been isolated, but wasn't. I started to see that this was not an isolated incident, right? Was years later when I entered my two youngest children that are now 16 and 11 into the same school system, the same school district, in the same location. Immediately, the experiences of my son started to manifest. I mean, I'm talking the first week of school, and it didn't let up. Okay. And so I said, they really do not like Black boys. Okay. So if we look at the way to measure this, at the top of the punishment and at the top of everything that you see happening as far as consequences, as far as who's not learning, as far as who's dropping out, you'll see Black boys at the top. Right underneath that, you'll see Black girls. And then underneath Black girls, you'll see every other demographic of boy. So our Black daughters and sons are getting treated absolutely the worst, producing absolutely the worst academic outcomes, and there is no pause on it. I'm talking every day. Okay. And so that is the incident that really led to me having to say, wait, I'm doing something wrong because this continues to happen. And I pulled my children out again and never returned. Okay. But I went back for other children. So I just want to say that because it was like, if I had experienced this and there was a generational gap, my daughter that's 25 and my son that's 11, that's a huge chunk of time between their elementary educations. Nothing had changed. As a matter of fact, I felt like it had gotten worse because of the things that happened to my son were just incomprehensible, unbelievable, right? And then as I started to talk to other Black parents, I really found out like, okay, this is a norm, but it shouldn't be normal to us. We should feel compelled to not leave our children in that space. And that was ultimately why I pulled him out, because I said, I'm over here fighting with these people. He's getting emotionally vanquished. And yet it's hypocritical because I keep taking him back. And what is he learning? He's learning that my mom is saying this place is toxic. This place is harmful. This place is not an environment conducive for my learning or my growth or development. And they're harming me. But every day she drops me off again. Okay.
As you were talking, something just occurred into my mind in that I'm wondering if there's a unspoken or either a contract between the school system and the prison system.
There is.
There must be some sort of written or unwritten contract because everybody in the chat has this story, has this
Right.
exact same story. I remember how they used to come at my children for the littlest thing and for little or nothing. And I know this isn't about my children. This is about all our children. But
All
here's
of our
what's
children.
interesting. Here's what's interesting, and I'm gonna shut the hell up and let you continue. The interesting part is this. You see how they try to vilify our children for any manner of thing that they do. It's almost like our children have to be angelic perfect and not make not one mistake, but then their
Right.
children can be wicked as hell, evil as hell, but then you don't want to teach the stuff that you already teaching your children to be wicked and evil as hell because that's where they learn it from. But then you don't want the history to be taught about how wicked and evil you have been, even up until today. You don't want that taught in elementary schools or junior high schools or even high school, because CRT is not even I heard it was like a doctorate program
Right,
for higher education. And so they
right.
use the moniker and the phraseology of CRT so that they can continue to do these ongoing attacks that they've been doing in the school system to our children, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And yes, if you look into how much funding comes from the Department of Justice into every single state's school system, you'll see a direct connection. It's not hidden. It's just that we have to understand how to navigate through their laws and policies and codes. There is
Mm,
billions of dollars nationally that go out into school systems from the Department of Justice, in programs that I find very questionable, right? Because we know by reading the language who it's going to target, who's going to, in effect, receive the harshest consequences from it. And if you think about schools, the US system of schools in the way of, well, for our children, it's like turning themselves into convict leasing every day. But for white children, it's like a white supremacist boot camp training and
mm,
development program.
mm.
Okay. And so when you think about it that way, you'll see the two Americas that exist. For our children that walk in every day, that is a hostile environment. For the white children, that's a place where they thrive and learn how to be white supremacists.
And how to not take responsibility for the lies and the wicked and the deviltry that you're doing, even though you doing deviltry and evil right where you live, right where you at school. These youngsters are doing these wicked things and saying these wicked things and acting out in such a wicked manner. It's beyond the pale in my mind. Hey, Shalom E, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Peace and blessings to you. Hope you, the family, the wife, and the children are doing well. Found a warrior. Peace and blessings to you. Hope all is well with you. Shalom. And so I'm going to keep going. So, sis, I had a whole battery of questions for you, but you've already blazed through that. But I have this one question. Um, was this your life mission before? Because you said you want to be a judge. So, do you believe that you being the modern day Harriet Tubman for our children, because that's who you are? You're modern day Harriet Tubman for our children. You ride for our children, and the rest of us need to get up to speed. So now, do you believe that this was part of your life mission? But before I ask that question, um, was this your life mission before what happened to your children, or was it a situation where this occurred after after what happened with your children? You said, "Okay, I want to go back and get more children. I want to become an advocate. This is actually my life mission."
So it's interesting how things are revealed to you as you're going along the way in your life, because all of my experiences led up to this moment. But when I graduated from high school, I was prepared to go to law school. So I did 4 years of pre-law at the University of San Diego. It's a private Jesuit Catholic school. And
What school was
then
that, sis? What school was that, if
the
I may ask?
the University of San Diego,
Okay,
USD.
USD. Okay, all right, all right.
So I graduated from the Joan B. Kroc Institute of Peace and Justice, for those of you that want to look that up, like I said. And then I changed my mind once I got, into my senior year, because I recognized that the path was either to be, a prosecutor or, just a public defender. And that didn't sit too well with me. It wasn't like people were graduating going directly into private practice, right? The path led straight into the courts, and I just didn't feel like that was where I was going to be able to serve the community, the most. So I decided to, get a master's in business administration. So then now I understand the politics, the law, and the economics, right, behind all of this. But my career path that I was on from high school was that I worked for the education system. I didn't understand how all of that, my education and my career that I was doing at the time, were all going to really merge into what I do now. And now I recognize, yes, this is my mission, right? And this is the path that the Father has me on, and all of the experiences and all of the training and things that I got along the way were to lead to this moment right now that I'm in right now. So I would say yes. but I didn't recognize that at the time.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's a buildup of all your life experiences, and the father, I'm sure, as he normally does, he was dropping a lot of jewels and hints to you along the way, and then you had your aha moment and said, "Here it is, right here." And see, this
Yeah.
is what I talk to you, family. I apologize for stepping over you, sis. This is what I talk to you, family. How the Father has put something in you to do His will. And it's something that you love. The sister obviously got a love for this, got a heart for this. The father was prepping her before she came out the womb. Somebody get that precept. He said he knew you before you even came on the scene to get your 70 out. He had already knew who you was, knew the number of hairs on your head. That's something else right there. I want you to look at this comment. But before that, I wanted to say this. Fam, we have been and are at war.
Yep.
Make no mistake about it. We have been, I'm gonna say it again, I'm gonna put it in the chat and I'm gonna post it. Sister, would you say that that's an appropriate statement, or am I just coming with a lot of hyperbole?
That is an understatement. Okay. I need for everyone to understand that the children are in the middle of the battlefield right now. Okay. And I agree, we cannot hide our talent. We have to utilize that, and it will expand and multiply as we use it. But yes, saying that we're at war is an understatement. And so I hope that people wake up and realize and go share with their neighbor the realities of the condition that we're in, and that our children are in a worse condition. If we can sit back and say, wow, this is horrible, well, what are the children experiencing?
Yeah, because a lot of times the children won't come home and say what their experiences are and going through. Like for instance, I'm gonna get through my situation real quick. When I was growing up, I went to the elementary school that was around the corner down the street. It was literally around the corner down the street. The elementary school was, and so I went to that from preschool to the third grade. Then they came up with this idea, and mind you, I'm a 70s baby, but I was born in the 60s. Born in the 60s. That makes me a 60s baby. Stop lying, brother C. And so the family already know I'm old as hell, but that's a different conversation. So they had this program to whereas your children can go, if they were in a depressed neighborhood or a poor neighborhood, you could go to an all white school, but your parents had to take you. Had to be responsible for taking you there and dropping you off. And some of the things that I experienced there, and there was only 10 of us that went to the all white school. The all white school is probably only maybe 5 miles, 6 miles away from where I live. So my mom thought that was a good idea. I hated the idea because I wanted to be with my friends. Long story short, I remember distinctively, and I know his name, and I could see his face right now. This one white guy used to call me names, and I didn't even know he was calling me names under his breath. And I
Right.
would be walking by him. He would say crazy stuff like "Spirit Chucker,"
Mm-hmm.
"Chocolate Bunny," "Moon Cricket," and I would look at him like I didn't even know what those terms meant until I asked God, which is Google. What do these terms mean? That was when I had become of age. Now I'm a grown man now, and I didn't know what a spirit chucker was. And he would say, "Nigga,"
Right.
but I didn't. But and then they would throw this one out there. They would say, yeah, nigger, no offense, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wait.
Yeah. Yep.
Go ahead, sis. Go ahead,
And
rock that.
so I was born, in 77. I'll tell my age. I don't have a problem with it. And I was a part of what I call a token integration program. So I was taken out of my neighborhood an hour and 10 minutes away to La Jolla, California, which if anybody understands, that used to be a sundown town by law. Okay. And I was the only Black child there all the way through elementary school. And I started thinking into my adulthood, well, how would I know if I was getting, called names that I shouldn't have been or whatever, because I was the only one there amongst all of them, right? I did see a lot of different avenues of life and the way that things were, but I don't necessarily, my father, who is watching this, will be the first one to tell you I'm not Mr. Brown. I didn't vote for that. You know, I want to educate my own children and call them out to be separate. And so, you know, just thinking about when I was in about middle school, my dad is the one that said she has to stop going to these schools in these outer neighborhoods, in these white neighborhoods, because she has a lot of book sense, but she ain't got no common sense, is what I remember my father saying. And I came back into the southeasternmost parts of San Diego to go to school. Now, that was a totally different experience because everybody, for the most part, looked like me, including the principal. And that was my experience in preschool, was that everybody looked like me, and I didn't see people that looked like me again until I got to almost high school. Okay. And so it is challenging because we think we're sending our kids out for a stellar, excellent education, but you're really sending them to be programmed. You're
Yeah,
really sending them to be programmed.
Program to hate yourself.
Exactly.
That's what I get out of that, because if you got somebody calling you ugly, you got somebody calling you all these kind of names, and you not, as a child, you're not gonna go to your parents. I wouldn't go to my parents and say that, because I didn't even know what the idiot was saying. I wouldn't go to
Right.
my parents saying, "Oh, mom, I'm always hearing nigger, no offense." I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't go. I internalize that, not to say that I know I'm not suffering any trauma from that, because there's other situations that happen along with me going to that school. And so I
Right.
say all that to say, sis, what do you think about, and somebody put the comment in the chat. I'm gonna ask you this last question, then we're gonna go to a break. Can you tell me if it makes sense for us to be training and homeschooling our own children? Because someone did ask that question.
Yeah, Deuteronomy 6 commands us to do that. If you look at, and I'm going to talk about this in the order of the slides,
Okay.
but if we look at the progressive steps of teaching your children these things when they wake up, throughout as they go along the way, as they when they lay down, to bind them, you know, on your forehead, your eyelids, to have them in front of your face, to lay it on the doorposts, right? That is the environment where that is conducive for our children to learn in, not the opposite, which is what is happening at the schools that they are attending. Is the complete opposite. It's like they're surrounded by Roman Greco mythology and all of this other stuff that should never be set in front of their faces, for them to be called out separate as unto our Elohim. So it's where, you know, we really have to just take an evaluation, a truthful one, and understand what is happening every day and what our call and our duties are for our own children.
Mm. And I appreciate that, because it's funny how the Father works. I think I can speak on this now. It's funny how the Father works. Do you know I was getting hit throughout the whole week about the widow and the orphan? The week prior to, the
Yes.
Father was dropped. I saw the Lisa Cabrera. Y'all know Lisa Cabrera, and the brother L. Brother L had did a show a couple of weeks prior to that. I listened to that show. He was speaking on that, but I was listening to that show the week that you came on. So I was like, okay, yeah, the brother's right. We do need to be more active. And then somebody else was speaking on it, and I was like, yeah, this two witnesses against you, brother C. Because I'm taking it personal. This is against you, brother C, because you're not doing what you should be doing. And I openly admitted that on the show when you came on.
Right.
Because I got to look at myself, fam. I can't look at nobody in the chat. I got to look at brother C, and I got to do introspective looks and ask myself, brother C, are you taking care of the widow? You taking care of the followers? You looking after the homeless?
Right.
What are you doing? And then the coup de grace was when you came on and you were saying this. I said, okay, so this is something then. This is
Mm-hmm.
something. We have to sound the alarm. And like I said, my hope is that bigger channels, bigger platforms pick up on the system. Don't pick up on Salt of the Earth. Salt of the Earth is irrelevant. Salt of the Earth Productions is irrelevant. Pick up the sister, bring her to your channel, and get exposed to this material. But a percentage, we didn't have no problem giving 10% of our winnings when we heard that music and felt good, when we were sitting in the pews and the pastor was lying to you, wasn't even breaking down the scripture, was making up stuff, hocus pocus, you say this silly phrase and now you're saved. Saved from what? We didn't have no problem with giving 10% of our money, sometimes even 30% when you're giving the Trinity offering. We didn't have no problem with giving our time.
Right, right. And I want people to shift their mentality from what can we do to fix the wicked beast system that our children are in, and to shift it to how can we develop school hubs? How can we provide our children with what they need as a community, right? That should be our thought, not how can we go in here and tell the beast system what to do, because it's going to do what it does. And I don't think that we need to be trying to keep our kids there and say, this is what you should do, because they're suffering in the meantime. And how long are they going to suffer? So our mentality should shift to, Father, where are the resources for us to be able to provide the type of wisdom and discernment and knowledge and understanding to draw our children's, highest and best potential? How do we develop that in our communities? How do we create a school hub? I have neighbors, and we homeschool our children together. We circulate, she does PE with the kids. I do some of the history and other lessons. And then other things we, have them do virtually, like math or science, right? Like thinking in those terms versus how am I going to drop my child off in this toxic place again, where this is leaven, really, a little bit leavens the whole lump. So I just want people to think about that.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and the sponsors want me to run the commercial right quick. I'm going to go ahead and run a commercial. But before I do that, I saw Michael Yah. I'm in 100 agreements to this, and I believe we actually teach this, what it says in Strong's and what it says about the term Niger or nigger. We definitely have taught that in the past, and we definitely understand that. What the heathen does is that they'll take words and they'll flip them. They'll make them mean something else. You notice that the main heathen, the antagonist of our existence, they will take everything and flip it around and make the opposite of what it is every single time. So, and that's what they've done in this case. So I appreciate you saying that, but we actually do teach, we've gone into this and some of the other terms that they've co-opted and use as bywords against us, or phrases that they've co-opted and said that when you see this phrase like saint, when you see this phrase, it's talking about Christian. No, you're a liar. It's not talking about that. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna run the commercial, and then after we get back, sis, unless you have something else to share, we're gonna get into the actual learning that you have prepared for us, because I've saw it and I've been going through the slides, and it's really, really interesting. And we're all going to become advocates. We are all Israelites over the whole earth, starting with those of us in the snakes. We're going to become advocates, and we're going to become advocates, and we're going to spend our time and our resources to reach back and grab our children. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to play this commercial, and we're going to get back. Okay, so those of you, if you have an opportunity, if you love what we do and you appreciate the work that the Father has given us that we do, go ahead and support. We're not asking for any donations or anything like that. So if you want to support the work that we do, go ahead and pick up some merchandise from SOTEPP.com. So what I'm going to do now is, before we get started with the sisters' information, I'm going to put sister information on the bottom. The sister has a website, and we'll get into the website and the YouTube channel. They're scrolling on the bottom. The sister is a powerhouse. I'm going to tell you that right now. I've been doing my digging and looking at the sister background, and she's not a joke. And when I use the term, she's a modern day Harriet Tubman for our children, she's exactly that. And nothing short of that. And I know we got different silos. Everybody done got their lane, but everybody need to figure out what their lane is. And it's really just look inside yourself and saying, Father, what is your will for me? And the Father gonna tell you, well, you already know what it is, a son or daughter. It's the things I love that I put in you that you're supposed to bring forth. On top of doing the baseline, which is LSC. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox, sis. So you're gonna direct me on how we're going to become an advocate, and that's the name of the game right now. We learn, get the information, understand the historical perspective, understand the perspectives, so that we can become an advocate for our children. So, sis, the floor is yours. You go ahead and rock the house.
Okay, so the first thing that I would like to bring up the slide with the lightning on it, but I would like to also say that every single person should be able to protect their children. Okay, should be able to protect their children. And if we can't do that, then we have already lost control of this thing. And so I'm glad that, there's people I see in the chat putting that they're starting a school or they homeschool. And yes, that is necessary, all of the above. Now, the lane that I'm in is a law, policy, code lane, right? So the people that are putting in the chat that they're starting a school would understand standards and curriculum and what that day could look like, more than I typically discuss. I know some people have questions about books and learning materials, and that's not my lane. So I appreciate you saying we should all discover our talent and utilize it and just keep using it and multiply it, right? With little we can multiply much. And so as you see, I'm going to start from a biblical understanding and perspective, then talk about the wicked codification that the system uses, and then how to engage with that system in a way that we can draw our children out. Again, my ultimate call is to let my people go, let our children go. The system cannot have them. They don't belong to the system. They are our children, and we should be building and battling at the same time. So you see the first slide there says, for the kingdom of Yahweh our Elohim is not in word, but in power. I wanted to lead with that, right? I wanted to lead with that because I don't like to meet again. I always tell parents, we're not meeting to meet again. There's a lot of talk, there's a lot of sin and a multitude of words, and we're not going to meet to meet again. We're going to set our children free. And so that is acts of power that are derived from the Father. We pray for wisdom, for discernment, for authority, to take back possession of what is rightfully ours. Every time I hear the verse, render unto Caesar's what Caesar's, and unto our Father what is, unto the Most High what is his. Well, the children don't belong to Caesar, but the system is owned by Caesar. And so we need to consider that. And if you could go to the next slide. All right. And so I want to start with the foundation. If we look at law as a principle, law is sets the foundation. And if we look at the foundation, if you look up foundation and from a biblical perspective, we see the verse that I have here, Psalm 89:14. Justice and judgment are the habitation of thy throne. Mercy and truth shall go before thy face. And so I wanted to talk about the principle of what is the kingdom law, right? And how that's established and what is the foundation of that. And at the habitation, at the very throne of the Most High, are justice and judgment. Not in the way that the world sees justice, right? Not in the way that the world sees judgment, because those ways that the system has used justice and judgment have been to our destruction and our demise, and we know that that is not the will of the Most High. And so we look at truth and mercy as well surrounding that habitation. And so if you could go to the next slide, habitation. So I want to really dive into the word etymology, because I like to explain things in their true and proper form and what they mean. So if we look at right there, you see the Strong's Concordance. You can look along with me and go on a search for this stuff as I'm speaking. And I always advocate that anytime someone is providing you with information, look it up, fact check. Thank you, Brother C, for looking me up. I appreciate that, because that's what I also teach people to do, to look it up, to fact check, and don't just take someone's word at things. So right there, you see the word habitation and of course its pronouncement and the definition, right? Properly, a fixture, a basis, generally a place, especially as an abode, foundation, habitation, dwelling, settled place. So we understand that the throne, the habitation of the Most High, is founded upon justice and judgment, and that mercy and truth always surround him. Okay. And then if we go to looking a little bit deeper at the next slide that's red, says habitation, you can look and see the uses of that word, right? I would suggest that, if you guys want to take some notes and really write what you're experiencing as I explain this stuff, right? Because that may be just the way you need to use your talent. I remember there was a time where I would be so mad and I've been looking around like, where is everyone at? And the finger was pointing back at me. This is a heavy lift, and no, I can't do it by myself. But I always had to then question myself, what's in my hand? What do I have that I can do and use the resources and the talents and the abilities that I have today, instead of looking to my left and my right to try to figure out what everyone else was doing. When I saw our children in horrible conditions, I just started to really pray that the Most High would prepare my hands for battle and war. And what is it that I can have and use in my hand to go out and fight this fight? And so we look at where the word habitation is used at, and it's showing you especially used of the place, habitation of the dwelling of the Most High, right? The dwelling of the Most High, a temple. And so you can see in scripture the other places where that is used for your reference if you want to go back and do more about that. Justice. So we're going to look at the word justice, and that's on the next slide. Strong's definition is going to be the right, natural, moral, or legal. Also abstractly, equity, or figuratively, prosperity. Even that which altogether is altogether just, right. So when I think about what is happening, I always pose the question, is this just? Is this right? And is this fair? Right? And if I can't see where it's just and it's right and it's fair, because when it says right there equity, we're talking about fairness and the fact that people get what they need. Everyone doesn't get the same thing. Everyone gets what they need. And we see that even in the parable of the talents, there were different measures poured out, right? We see that there's different measures poured out in various ways throughout scripture. And so getting what a person needs is not the same as I want the same as everybody else, right? So that's what I mean by fairness. Is it right? Is it just? Is it fair? And that's a question that those are three questions that you can ask when you're seeing all the things that are happening, and reports about the condition of our children, is this right? Is this just? And is this fair? Are the ways that I look at that. And so again, on the next slide are going to be the occurrences throughout the word of the word justice. And it says, in a physical sense, straightness, rightness, straight path, hence in an ethical sense, rectitude, right, what is right and just, what is so or ought to be so, right? And so that is the proper use of the word justice in this scripture. Okay. And then judgment, when we look at biblical understanding of judgment, we look at the proper verdict, right? Favorable or unfavorable. And that's on the next slide. Pronounced judiciously, especially and I don't know if everyone can see it. I'm looking from a device that's not a computer, so I can see it fine. But if people are having a hard time seeing that, I think they'll say something in the chat. But looking at the sentence or formal
Can I stop
decree.
you for a second, sis?
Mhm.
Can you guys put a 3 up if you guys can see the screen okay? If not, I can make some adjustments. But I need some of you in the chat to put a 3 up to make sure that you can see the screen okay. It appears to be coming in okay on my side, and it appears to be broadcasting okay, but I'm noticing that the chat is virtually okay. There we go. There go the fam. Okay, I appreciate that, fam. Okay, go ahead, sis.
Okay. And so I wanted to just bring the proper understanding of these words, right? And you'll see in this definition, divine, law, individual, or collective, including the act, the place, the suit, the crime, and the penalty. Abstractly, justice, including a participant's right or privilege. And so that's the definition of that in its proper form under the concordance of this verse, Psalm 89:14. And then we can look at judgment on the next slide and its occurrences, right? And that is, of the act of judging, do righteousness, right? So, right, making things right is always going to be coupled with making sure they're just. Okay. So that's why I said, if you begin to really ask the question when you see something, is it right? Is it just? Is it fair? Because if it's not right, it can never be just. Okay. And so a lot of people try to pursue justice in the sense of ignoring the righteousness, but you can't do it because those are coupled and they're coupled from the foundation of the throne. You can't separate them, but like you said, when we see things in the world or in the system, they're the opposite of what they should be. So you see all of these pursuits of justice and equity, but none of it's right. And so it'll never be right. It's coming from the wrong foundation. It's coming from the wrong standard. And so the Most High has established a standard by which we should understand justice. And knowing that justice and righteousness are a couple, you cannot separate the two based on, just the understanding of the words. And so really wanted to make that very clear so that we know what we're seeking. We're not just seeking justice. Things have to be right. And so we're going on to mercy.
Before I go on to mercy, since I'm going to say this, I'm not equal to nobody.
Right.
And my sister hit the nail. You hit the nail on the head. My sister right here hit the nail on the head. We've been chasing equality, and the Father said, "You're not equal to nobody." The way I look at myself is, I'm above everybody. I'm not equal to you. There's no the book says I'm not equal to you. So now if I want to give you some equity when I become the head, that's my business. But you'll never be the head again. Because now you're about to be the tail. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I just had to say
No,
that.
but you're right about saying that. And I want to talk about that really. Every single one of us is uniquely created, right? No two of us, not even identical twins, are the same, right? But we're colonized to believe that we're all supposed to be equal. They didn't call America the melting pot for nothing, because what were they trying to melt us into, right? And that was a term that was used for people that were immigrating. So if you were brought here, if we're in captivity, born and bred, then definitely looking at the word race, even not from the social construct per se, but looking at the word race, if we think about the Kentucky Derby, okay, that's why you'll hear words in education like "No Child Left Behind," "Race to the Top," right? Because they already know that through controlled deprivation, if you deprive some, others are going to be ahead, and they already were ahead anyway by design, right? And then, okay, everybody go race and go get it. And so if we start thinking about race in the term of, oh, yeah, they establish a skin color, social construct rules around that, but they also use it as a system by which controlled deprivation thrives. What do I mean by controlled deprivation? Well, controlled deprivation is basically the people that are in control can deprive certain groups and allow other immunities and privileges to the ones that are surrounding them. And then the groups that are deprived begin to get so desperate that they will do anything for what the other group has. Okay, so we have to be very we have to understand clearly that this is all by design, and this is what they do to our children: control, deprive them of what they desire, of what they need, of what they should have to develop and grow in an environment that's supposed to be meant for that, right? We talk about education systems. They deprive them on purpose, and our children watch other people have access to what they do not, and it stunts our kids' growth. And so I don't know if
No.
you
I
want.
was just mute. It takes the old head. Somebody said he's in his 50s. I'm almost 60 years old. Actually, I'm a few hundred days away from being 60. So I move a little bit slowly. And I'm just using that as an excuse for not being quick. So I appreciate that, sis. I'm looking at some of the. I don't know if you can see some of the comments in the chat, and they are spot on. I do want to say this to Little Ray, and you're right. This system is not set up for us. Not only are we not citizens, it's not constructed for us. So our mindset should be, okay, since we know that, let's go ahead and do our own. We're
Right.
brilliant enough to do our own. We don't, and see, that's the thing about us Israelites. And I'm not talking about, when I say this comment, I'm not talking about you in the chat. But you know what I found? And I'm gonna say this to the whole house of Israel. Israel only want to hear train wrecks. When it comes to something that's going to build them up or some work that they have to do, Israel will shut you down. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to listen to that. Now, how can you say that, brother C? Well, the analytics tell me that. When I do a show that's chastising Israel, or that's coming at Israel, or that's telling Israel something that they may have think that they understand and that they already heard, they don't even want to hear it. They don't want to. We don't get views on that. We only get views on train wrecks, on if we coming at somebody. Or if we spitting on the heathen, spitting them venom in their eyes, which we could do that. We could do that 24/7. But what have you built?
Right.
Where are you at in your life where you're saying, okay, I'm doing the will of my Father because I'm doing LSC, but He put these 5 talents inside of me. I need to go do them. So anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox and let you continue to rock.
And this, I don't know if this is appropriate to bring up, but Fred Hampton even said you have to understand that people have to pay the price for peace. Okay. And the thing about it is that we keep asking the wicked heathen to stop doing wicked and turn and do right by us and our children. Where did they do that at? Right. We keep trying to appeal to the better nature of these people that set this thing up in a way that is designed to deprive and designed to oppress and designed to be hateful against us. And then we think that we're going to appeal to their better nature. I mean, if appealing to their better nature somehow worked, then it would have happened over the last 400 some odd years. I mean, I don't understand what the mentality and the hope is and continuing to try to appeal to the better nature of the wicked heathen, right? When we should be appealing and petitioning before the Most High that we have the wisdom and the wherewithal, the protection and the resources to build what we need to build to protect our children and our households. And so I hear you on that soapbox. A lot of times when I go out and I say, this is what I'm doing for children, people say, oh, that's really good. Good job. Pat me on the back and keep going.
Okay. And see that I have a problem with that, because what I've always been saying is this, and we've been talking about race, so I'm gonna mention this. Israel is at the all the races of people, all the nations from the table of nations are at the starting line, and the father done said the fired the gun. Everybody running a 100-yard, 100-yard dash, 100-meter dash. The father done pressed the go button. He fired the gun, and everybody running. Everybody already at the 90-meter line. Israelites standing around looking at each other and asking the dumbass question of, well, okay, so what do we do next? Looking at each other. Just imagine yourself looking at each other, turning your head side by side and looking at the person next to you, the Israelite next to you, and you asking the silly question, well, what do I do next? Well, you should ask yourself the question, well, what's the Father putting you to do next?
Well, David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this trooper, the raid bandits, right? And shall I overtake them? And he answered, yeah, you will surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. And so that's the question we really need to be asking. Shall we pursue and recover all?
Absolutely 100%. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop making the conversation go left and right. I am going to greet
No, it's okay.
couple of you. No, because I don't want it to be said when they replay it later. Brother C, you ran your mouth too much. Let the sister rock out. Darlene Franklin, peace and blessings, sis. Glad to see you. My good brother Sean, I'll see you in the chat. Peace and blessings to you. Hope you are well. And everybody else that I missed, peace and blessings to you. Hope you're well. So I'm gonna let the sister continue to rock out, and we're gonna continue to get at this. And keep in mind, family, the goal is for everybody who is part of the diaspora, no matter where you are on the earth, because I'm sure some of these practices can be done in like Brazil. But now we focus on the snakes for this minute, and we focusing on the snakes, and you, sir, you, ma'am, are going to become an advocate.
Right.
And you're going and you are going to spend your time and your resources for our children. So I'm gonna go back on mute.
Right. And I appreciate, saying that, because this is all of our responsibility, right? And we should be honored as children are a reward to us. And so we should be honored to be prepared to do whatever it is to pursue. I remember in the last episode when I raised, this issue, I said I kept thinking about how Abraham heard that Lot was taken, and he gathered 318 of his trained brethren from his household and went and got Lot, the children, the women, everything moving out. Okay. He didn't ask the wicked heathen, should I go get Lot? He didn't try to think about what they were going to do. He got 318 of his trained brethren out of his own household, and went and got Lot, the children, and everything moving out. And I'm asking, are there 318 of y'all right now? Because we need to go get our children out. Okay. And so that's a thought, right? If we can't gather 318 trained brethren from our household, from our family, from the nation to go and say, let our children go, you can't have them, then that's part of the build and the battling that we definitely need to do. But we have to be truthful and honest about if we are ready for that level of engagement in warfare. And I know that some people may be afraid, but fear is not going to redeem us or our children. And trying to adapt the ways of the heathen, of how they fight, are definitely not going to work either. And so I know that there's wisdom from the Most High that we have to tap into on how to really fight this battle over our children, because I keep saying this and I'm going to keep saying it. The system cannot have our children. They don't belong to the system. And they're getting gobbled up every day. And so my call is, where's the 318? Me, myself, I should be able in this battle to say, let me go get 318 of my trained brethren, because I know the kids over here are under duress and oppression and all kind of stuff. And we should be able to do that and figure out what we going to do with them after we got them to freedom, after we have liberated them from their condition. But as it stands today, that's not something that I can do, Brother C. And so I really do hope that this discussion changes, and anybody that is listening and compelled through this discussion, please share it out to somebody that you know may be in the condition where they're calling you and saying, every day my child go to school, I don't know what's wrong. Right. There's always something. I'm always getting a phone call. I'm always getting notes, and my kid's always getting suspended or expelled. That's by design. And so that is a direct connection to prison, because if they can't stay in school, then the next step is either Child Protective Services, Department of Children's Services, or the juvenile so-called justice system. And so we have to be aware of that, and we'll get into that a little bit down the road here. So if you want to go to the next slide, then we can talk about mercy, right? I saw that somebody put in the chat that we were colonized or trained to always have sympathy for our oppressor, and that's true, because they say it under the guise of mercy. But my thing is, show me where you've been merciful. You ask us to turn the other cheek. I want to see how you did it, right? And so that's not the proper understanding of mercy. So as we can see, the definition of mercy also includes reproof. Okay. It does. It includes, acts of kindness. I don't like using the word nice, because if you look up the word etymology on nice, you will see that it means foolish, dumb, stupid, ignorant. I don't walk around talking about the fact that we're supposed to be nice at all. Start looking words up in the word etymologies of them. Reproach, right? And so you see that there. And then if we could go to the actual usage of occurrences of the term. All right, so you'll see mercy used in the sense of in a good sense or zeal. Right. A lot of people say, oh, Christina, you're so passionate. No, I'm zealous. And this is a zealous pursuit. And I'm righteously indignant because of what's happening to our children. So it's not just passion or, it's a feel good moment. This is every single day, from the time that I wake up into the time that I'm go to sleep. I'm wondering how I could set children free. And it requires that amount of thought. Based on the conditions that they're in currently. And so, just looking at the actual word in its true and proper form, we can see that the way that we should be understanding our word that has been given to us, right, is not from the perspective of the colonized way of, well, we're going to keep beating you up, but turn the other cheek. We're going to keep beating up on your kids, and we're not going to protect them, but keep dropping them off, right, to us. And yeah, bring them back to us, right? And what good is going to come from the position of people that don't have a moral compass or, a way of doing things? Like, why are we wanting to be doing things like them? Why do we even want to mimic anything or even listen to them? And I show up, and the first thing I says is, how are you the credible source of information and authority about what's good for our kids? How? I want you to tell me. You don't look like them. You don't talk like them. You don't even have the knowledge or understanding of their identity. So what makes you the credible source of authority and information about our children? And you're not. And you can't tell me what's right and what's not right about our children. And they'll try. So as soon as you lay that foundation of authority, of you being that credible source of information and authority over your own child. I see some people in the chat saying, I try to advocate, and they say, bad things or, consequences come. Yeah, that'll happen. You need to be prepared for that. But we are the credible sources of authority and information about our children, not them. They are not even a credible source of information about mercy, about judgment, about justice, but yet we allow for them to tell us what it looks like, and they can't even show it. And
Well,
so I'm
that's
going
a
to pause.
beautiful that's a beautiful thing that has happened, sis. And I apologize for interrupting you, but that's a beautiful thing that has happened. We are no longer looking to the heathen as being the moral majority, as being morally right or morally correct or proper in anything that they say, and especially when it comes to the book. The heathen cannot decode a newspaper. So
Mm-mm.
how are you going to rightfully divide scripture? How are you going to understand justice and mercy and truth when it was never in you? Somewhere in the book say you are of your father the devil. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna get off my
No,
soapbox. Go
you're
ahead,
right.
sis.
No, and when I'm saying we, and I'm not talking about the people in this chat. I hope all of us have that understanding. But like I said, share this with your neighbor who may not have that understanding, um, because this affects their children too, right? We need to share this with our household, meaning the family, right? Which we're doing right here, and I hope that people are able to tune in and understand the call. And so, yeah, no, that's right on time. And I'm glad that I see that we have an understanding about the words that are being used and about the hypocrisy that is taking place. And so that should be a clear and concise understanding of what next we need to do with our children, because it's definitely not to drop them off to these people that hate us and want to see us dead. Can you go to the next slide? All right. And so that leads us into truth, right? As part of, what is in the foundation around the habitation of the Most High. And we see stability. And I call that fortification, right? The truth will set you free. But a lot of people say the truth will set you free. The truth will set you free. Well, what are you set free to do? Is it just to be in the truth, or is it to be fortified to action, fortified to what, right? And so I just pose that question, like, yes, the truth will set you free, but you also have a talent that you have been given. So the truth should set you free to be able to function in that, right? And we should have stability, and we should be able to have establishment, and we should be able to be fortified, right? That's the kind of like the Nehemiah project, right? I'm not listening to Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. Neither should you, because they're going to come as soon as you start to deliver the truth about the condition that our children are in, and you start to say, this is not okay. You guys are not the source of information or authority over what is right, fair, and just for our children. Trust and believe. Sanballat and Geshem and Tobiah are going to come, and they're worse than that. And so, like Nehemiah said, get a tool and a weapon. Okay. That's the hour we're in today. Get a tool and a weapon. All right. And so I'm just going to leave that there. And here is where, we can look at that peace and stability, right? Like looking at that pair, right? If we have peace, then if we have stability, then we can also have peace. So, if we have fortification, then we can have peace amongst ourselves even, right? Looking at that as a form of truth, with fidelity, to do that with fidelity, with precision, right? With precision. And I'm not a minister. I look at words from a legal perspective. So I just have to throw that out there, just for anyone that, has extra knowledge about the etymologies. Definitely share that, because we all need to understand and know what that is. And so I just wanted to bring this forward and break down the Psalm 89:14 from the perspective of the way that I understand it. And it is one of my motivational factors in this fight. I always think about, the way that justice and judgment are the habitation of the Most High, are the foundation of his throne. And, mercy and truth are always before the face of the Father. So if you could go to the next slide. And so here's the truth too about what else is always in front of the Most High's face? Take heed that you despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. And I want to pause right there because I need people to process that, right? We have the habitation, the throne, the foundation of the Most High, surrounded by, founded upon, I'm sorry, justice and judgment, and surrounded in His face always is truth and mercy. And I can't quite know exactly what that looks like, so I'm not going to even begin to try to describe that except for by what Scripture says. But then also, before the face, always beholding the face of the Father, are the angels that are assigned to these little ones.
Okay, so can I jump in for just a quick second, sis?
Please.
When I see this precept, Matthew 18:10, take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones. You know what I think about? I'm always talking about gator bait. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always talking about that because that's something that's been pressed into my frontal lobe. What kind of wicked entity could tie a child to a rope while they screaming and hollering, put them in the swamp, and have used that as bait to catch little children, to catch alligators? Use a baby. What individual would see a so-called slave or a so-called African American or wherever they are, cut the stomach open, watch the baby fall out, and stomp the baby? What kind of vile entity would blow up a church knowing that there's children in it and kill four of our children inside of a church and blow that church up, firebomb out, whatever they did to that in that situation? So you say that you're a Christian, United Snakes. You say that you were founded on Christianity because there's Christianity we know is not in the book, but yet you missed this verse, and yet you never brought justice and truth and judgment upon your people for all the wicked acts that they have done. You think the Father don't have a running account? Anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I'm gonna get
No,
off.
and then what we got to ask ourselves: what kind of people would continue to drop their children off to the grandchildren and the children of the people that did stuff like that? You know, that was a stark reality for moment for me when I questioned. Well, I know all of the horrible things that they have done and continue to do. So what does that make me if I keep dropping my kids off to these people?
Hmm. Hmm. And see the biggest spell that was cast upon us, the spell of the 45,000. Y'all know what that is. The spell of the 45,000 is one that you will disregard all of this information that the book says. Your life parallels the book, and and the book is talking about you from a prophetic manner, and yet you don't receive it. So you will be an absolute fool to continue knowing you have all this information. You'll be an absolute fool to continue to send your children to these institutions.
That's why I don't typically argue with beast system healers. I call them the beast system healers. They're everywhere. Oh, let's heal the beast system. For what? I'm the person that's saying, well, I want to see the house burn. You know, I'm not going to heal the beast system. There, we already know what that looks like, what the end of that is. We need to be using that energy and pressing in on pursuing to get our children and out of that, right? And so I'm not from the perspective of I'm not a beast system healer. There's some of those everywhere you go in a meeting talking about no, we're going to fix the system, fix. It didn't come from a righteous place. So how can you justify something that's not right? And so we can get on that soapbox, but I'm just saying that's my take on it. So I just concur with what you're saying. We can go to the next slide. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Next one. And Brother C, you brought this scripture up earlier on, and so I'm just going to reiterate what it says, and this is for us. This is for us. You shall not harm or oppress any widow or fatherless child. If you harm or oppress them in any way, and they cry at all to me for help, excuse me, I will most certainly hear their cry. I will most certainly hear their cry, and my wrath shall be kindled and burn. I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows, and your children fatherless. And so I think about this scripture in the way of, am I operating in self-imposed curses by oppressing my own children, right? If my children are fatherless, and I'm clear, I'm really honest about that, right? I cry out to the Most High that He would afflict those who afflict us. That's what my prayer looks like. Okay. And so we have to be really clear, really truthful, and really understanding about what we are not supposed to do. It says it very clearly: not to harm or oppress any widow or fatherless child. And we see this widow and fatherless child, the orphans, the widows, and the fatherless brought up over and over and over again. And so once He has said it twice, we heard it, we should be acting, moving, moving in action, in pursuit. Like David said, should I pursue? Right? Do you have anything that you want to talk about before I go into the wicked codification section?
No, I don't. I think you hit the nail on the head. But here's what I get out of this: is it says harm or oppress any widow or fatherless children. It's like the heathen is guilty of that, and the Israelites is guilty of that. The heathen is guilty of that because they do it overtly. We're guilty of it because we continue to send our children to these institutions. So we doing it covertly. There's errors by omission and commission. We're not cognizant that we're really hurting our children by sending them to these institutions. We need to stop it. Israelites need to stop. That's
Right.
all I got to ask is.
And
That's all
I
I got to
have
ask.
a question about that though, right? And this is something that I've been challenged with. We're praying for the righteous, just judgment of the Most High, but are we holding that back because our children are still there, right? Like I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I think about that sometimes. Like if I'm praying for the just judgment, or if of the Most High, am I in the way?
I would say that how I would respond to that is this way: we need to get out of the way, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a tough saying because we are in the belly of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
The United Snakes of America is the king of, or one of the main pillars of the Western construct. And when I say Western construct, y'all know what I mean. I'm talking about this racist white supremacist construct that we're up under. And it's crumbling as we speak. So as it is crumbling, as it is crumbling, that just means the head is becoming the tail and the tail is becoming the head. You all need to take the mantle and take responsibility. And stop pushing off the responsibility. Brother C, make it to yourself. Brother C, put it to yourself. Brother C, stop pushing off responsibility on other people, and you stay in your lane and do what you're supposed to do. Point blank. There are, and see, here's what needs to happen, sis. We all need to know who they are and where they are, and we all need to be connected. But here's the beautiful thing that I'm seeing right now. The dry bones are coming together. They are,
Yes.
whether we like it or not. There has been so much great momentum and movement, and this is a part of that because the father don't want the fatherless left behind. They took the father out of the home for a reason, and the book talking about fatherless right now. Exodus 20, 22, 22, and 24 talk about fatherless, where you took the fatherless out the home and you locked him up, and you did that on purpose.
Yep, and we're going to talk about the way they codified that. I want to address Phantom Warrior's statement. Don't you think that homeschooling is too small? 2/3 of our people don't care, so their children won't be homeschooled. And I was actually talking to my dad about this very thing right here. about the people that don't care. And he reminded me of how Yeshua healed 10 lepers, but only one came back. And the one came back and he said, "Where's the other ones?" And even though the other ones were gone, he still, gave instruction to that one. And so this is what it is. Okay, we can provide the truth, we can provide the space, we can provide the advocacy and all of that. But if the one comes back, that's still one that wasn't healed, wasn't coming back before. So 10 were healed and only one come back grateful. And I deal with that all the time in this space of fighting and battling hard for children, that, it'll be a very few amount of people that really will come back and say, we need to pay it forward. How can we join you in this battle? I get some parents that will come back every year and I say, aren't you done yet? Aren't you tired? This happened last year and it's getting worse as your child gets older and matriculates through the K-12 education system. It's time to think differently. It's time to change your behavior. You're not able to change the system's behavior, but you can change yours. And it is very challenging. It is very challenging seeing the effects of being born and bred in captivity. But I believe that during this time where people are coming to a knowledge and understanding of themselves, this information will give them a hunger and thirst to do what's right. It is just enough to give them a hunger and thirst to do the right thing, and then they will be filled. And so that's what I have to say about that. We continue to pursue. All right.
Go ahead and direct me.
The next one is the slide. All right. And so I want to look at our principle with regards to educating our own children, since I see the chat is hot about that. And we look at Deuteronomy 6. And so if you see right here, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God." I'm just going to read directly. So for everyone that, is looking at this, it's underneath the Hebrew writing in the middle. Is our God, the Lord is one. Okay. And that's the principle that we have received as far as the Shema. I don't even know if I said it right. I say the Shema or the Shema. So if you want to go to the next slide. And then we see the whole thing, right? "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children." There you go, have it right there. "Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts on your house and on your gates." And so this was the way that our children was supposed to learn about the things Most High wanted to impress upon them. And that was all day experience, right? A lot of times we see our children suffering in the system. They can't sit 6 hours a day in one spot. Well, because we're a people that have been in motion. We're kinesthetic. We learn and we go and we learn and we're moving, right? I can't remember many times where Yeshua wasn't moving. I remember an incident where 12 years old, his parents looking for him, and they're like, "Why did you do that?" Right? And he said, "Didn't you know I was going to be about my Father's business?" They're moving in doing and moving and learning and growing in wisdom and in stature. And so we think about the education that the system or the heathen or the Gentiles try to offer us. Is that really the way that our children are supposed to learn, right? And what they're teaching them, why are we seeking for them to learn that information either? Because again, they're not the moral authority. Why are we seeking for them to learn what they're being taught anyway? So we have to challenge ourselves to look at the modality, which means the method or the way that children learn, our children learn, which I said kinesthetic, in motion. Tactile, touching things. They'll get in trouble for touching things because they're tactile learners, because they're meant to be in motion. And it's reiterated right here in Deuteronomy 6 that this is what it is. And, they get in trouble for those things because they want them to just be still and sit in the corner and take these worksheets. And you know what? If you talk, if you blink the wrong way, if you move, if you touch your peer that's sitting next to you in their desk, if you're borrowing pencils, if you're up sharpening pencils too many times, if you got to go to the bathroom too many times, you're in trouble. And that begins a cycle of consequences that they can never redeem themselves from. And so I wanted to bring this in to get an understanding about the mode of teaching and the use of materials that they're teaching our children. And some people say, well, homeschooling, I don't want to homeschool my child. This is an excuse that I hear all the time because they're not going to be socialized. And I said, why would you want them to learn and develop the social things that are happening in schools? Why would you want your child to learn from their peers some of those behaviors and things that you would have never taught your kid, okay, at home? Think about that, right? Is that really the social environment that you want your child to be in? And so, I challenge people with their thoughts on the way that schools manifest information and infuse and impart information, but they really are not designed to extract the highest potential out of our children, to develop them to learn in a way that we see is all throughout Scripture. A lot in motion, a lot by experience, a lot by modeling, right? Elijah and Elisha was a way of modeling learning, and so even Samuel, goes to Eli and says, hey, did you call me? And Eli's like, no, you need to ask the Most High, like, what does he want from you, right? And so looking at various ways of training our children are all throughout Scripture, and we can see them if we take heed and we pay attention. And it is in total opposition and contradictory to what the school environment they're in right now has them learning, and the social environment they're in right now is not developing them to be a royal nation, a holy nation, a royal priesthood set apart as holy unto the Most High. It is acculturating them to the beast system. Okay, so let's make no mistake about that. Let's be very clear about that. Our children that are going to school are being conditioned and acculturated to be a function of the beast system. And so I want to pause right there to look at comments and hear from you, Brother C.
What I will say is this: there's been a bunch of awesome comments, and like I always say, the most important people are the folks in the chat, because you have life experiences and you have seen things that pertain to the conversation that we're having. I do want to hit this one, and I want to get your comments on this one, sis. This is from our sister Bridget. Shalom, Bridget. Peace and blessings to you, sis. As Sean, I agree. For example, with my brothers, I provided evidence that the public school system should be called the public indoctrination system. That goes hand in hand with what the sister was saying. But I want to go back to I did see something. I saw something in the precept of Deuteronomy 6. Now you know that what this is pointing you back to is pointing you back to the 10. First off, right off the rip. I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Hear, O Israel, the Father our Elohim, the Father is one. You shall love the Father your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. Then it says next, take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. He's telling you, pointing you back to the 10 Commandments off the rip. So these are the things that the Israelites, first of all, need to be pressing into your people. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of it. It said, inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and at your gates. I have the 10 in front of one of the doors in my office at the house. I got them when you enter into the house, and I got them before you go into the kitchen. They've been there for at least a decade or so. Why is that, brother C? Because we need to put them and have them in our frontal lobe.
Yep.
And then we need to be teaching our children. So if you're teaching your children from a biblical perspective, which is all of the tenets that you've seen already, you're going to be in good case. Now, what we have to do is stop the talk. And that's what today's show is about. The sister should have a whole army.
Yep.
After she done did the Israelite circuit, the red, black, and green circuit, the non-Israelite circuit, the Christian circuit, this sister should be on everybody channel sounding the alarm. You don't have to go to Salt of the Earth. Don't even watch the video. Just take the sister name. We got the sister information. Let me get the banner. We got the sister information. Here go the sister information, her website, and we're going to take a look at her website and her YouTube channel. Here's her email address right there. It's scrolling on the bottom. Her YouTube channel is scrolling on the bottom. Sister got her own website. Sister, like I say, I turned her the Black Harriet Tubman for our children. I hope she didn't take offense at that. But the
No.
sister's raw with it. Sister is raw with it and bold with it. And when they say bold entities, the sister's bold. Point blank, period.
Right.
So
I appreciate that.
What I'm hoping to get out of this, and you're welcome, sis, what I'm hoping that we get out of this as a family, not as a YouTube channel, not as no Salt of the Earth Productions, not as even no Israelite, that everybody here become an advocate, and that you tell the other channels, hey, look, have this sister on, y'all all need to become advocates. You should be on, I don't care if it's TD Snakes, Joel Osteen, that wicked lizard, liar, reptilian. I don't care who it is. Our people need to know that our children are in bad case.
Yep. That's true.
And then you can't just say, oh, yeah, I feel bad about it, because my spirit was hit. Like I said, I was getting hit left and right. Hey, look. Hey, Brother C, what you doing about the childless and the widow and the homeless? Brother C, what you doing about the fatherless? Time after time after time. And then when sister jump on, I'm like, okay, I got to do something. I got to be busy. It just can't be with words, Brother C. You got to actually put your hand to the plow, and you got to become an advocate. You got to spend some of your resources, time and money.
Yep. Yep.
I'm going to stop preaching.
And so, I mean, but I challenge people, right, to do this very thing and see what happens in their own children's mind. If you're a parent or a grandparent, one of the things that I do with my children is I have them read a Proverbs a day, right? Wisdom, right? And since there's 31 books of Proverbs, every month has, except for maybe February, sometimes at least 30 days, have them read the one of the day. Okay. And see what transforms and transitions in their own thought process, in their own mind, because, folly is bound up in the heart of a child, right? But we have to be putting in something by which they can connect to bring extract. Okay. If all there is surrounding them is wickedness, then that's what's going in and that's what's going to come out. Even if there's a little bit of, righteousness, no, there's still, it's like the leaven, right? A little bit of leaven's the whole lump. And so even that, do people even know the 10 commandments? The first one being, you shall have no other God before me, right? No other gods. The first thing that they teach in the school is a system of other gods, Greek mythology. Why are they learning Greek and mythology? You shall not make for yourself an idol, right? The first thing that they're getting taught in the system of education is how to idolize, idol worship. All they do in holiday parties, and it's all of that, right? You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, right? If we could just go on and on, remember the Shabbat day and keeping it holy. They're not learning that, right? The friends see Friday as a night to hang out and Saturday as more hangout time, and so we got to look at how all of the things that they're learning at the hands of someone else are in total opposition to what the Most High are leading us back to. And so even just instilling in your home that every day when the children wake up, you're going to have them read the Proverbs of the day and ask them to pray to the Most High that they have discernment about what he is saying to them. And then, when my son, when he's gotten to like third grade, I had him write dear Abba Father letter, right? What did you learn from that Proverbs? What is the Most High saying to you, and what does he want you to do with that information? And that's only between you and him. And then at night, they're saying our Father, right? And it's not out of ritual, habit, or tradition. This is us leaning in to our identity and our purpose and wanting to understand more of who he is so that we can function in who we're supposed to be right here on earth. Okay. And so I just want to give that as a tool that, people can start doing today with their children and their grandchildren. We can go to the next one.
Okay, but before we do, I'm just going to say one quick one. I'm not pledging allegiance to your flag, nor am I singing your national anthem. We don't play that game around here. I ain't pledging allegiance to no flag of United States of America. Your flag could go to hell and your national anthem.
Right.
How about that?
Right. And if our children who have knowledge go and say that at school, at the school where they're sent to, then guess what? They're in trouble. Right? They miss a recess. They miss a lunch. So it's all teaching them to be acculturated into the system of multiple deities, into the mythology, into everything else in between that's happening. We can see tons of agendas running through the system and it's funded by those agendas. And so if you don't believe that school is a political thing, it is. So I want to say that. So I want to talk about wicked codification, and the term that you see here is partis sequitur ventrum. And I know I see the slides are okay. So partis sequitur ventrum, I call it one of the first rules of law that was implemented that dealt with women and their reproductive abilities, right? So we talk about what was established in the colonies, Virginia, when slaves were brought. Okay, partis sequitur ventrum, the rule that perpetuated slavery and legalized rape. Okay, so 1642, legislators in Virginia colony passed a law that determined that in the matter of sex between free Englishmen and a Negro woman, the legal condition of the child should follow that of the mother. Okay, so this partis sequitur ventrum law that was established upon us being, here, and when they started to, rape and pillage our bodies, is a rule of law that comes from Roman law. Okay, it's a code that comes from Roman law, and it is used for chattel in breeding of chattel, how chattel will be bred. Okay, now I want you to think about, does this law in effect, in practice, still exist? When and how was this law, this practice ended? Because everything is according to the matrilineal line, and that is what continues to erase and try to divide the father from the family, because they look at everything from the matrilineal perspective, and they can get away with their wicked dealings by looking at that. And that was the first division of our family structure, partis sequitur ventrum. Okay. And another part of partis sequitur ventrum that a lot of people don't know, and you have to study this, is that when they looked at the breeding of animals and they saw the horses, that if you got the female horse, you could train the female horse, and the female horse would always be loyal to the trainer. But that was not the case when we look at the male horse, right? And so the female horse, you didn't have to do much but train the female horse. And when the female horse delivered, babies, offspring, the female horse would train what you trained her and infuse that into the babies that she had. And so they applied that to the property law of Negro women. And I see the effects of it to this day. And so, Brother C, I want to stop because that was a lot, so that you can, have some discussion on that if you want.
I do, because that to me sounds like trauma is passed down to the child through their DNA, through the mom's DNA. And that's been medically proven from what I understand. If I look at that picture on the left, it says
Mm-hmm.
great bargain sale of, look at how they got it. Great
Yep.
sale of Negroes, horses, cattle, and other property.
Right.
They put you in this, but they listed you first though, because you was the most expensive, most important. You made way more. You was worth more than the horses, cattle, and the other property. That's why you listed first and in big capital letters. That's amazing and fantastic. And so you asked the question of what's changed, and these laws that they had, they've never taken these laws off the book.
They're not off the book.
So they don't tell you that, hey, these laws still exist and we don't have to do anything for you because you're still 3/5 of a man. You're still cattle.
Yep.
You're still just a grade above cattle, not even a grade above cattle. You're a property. You're something that I own, and technically we still kind of own y'all. Even though
Right.
we haven't taken all of these laws off the books, we've come up with other laws. But if you come up with other laws, how come you haven't said, okay, we're erasing all of these ridiculous laws that we had on y'all? We accepting you into this particular culture, and now you're a quote citizen of the snakes.
Right. And
Go ahead,
and
sis.
if you could bring up the Wig Wags article in the link that I sent you. Another thing is that they're betting on the black woman to do what they're colonizing us to do, which is, a part of this wicked codification. And you're talking about inheriting this in our DNA. Yes, it has been proven through research. And I know that there is I think a psychologist that talks about slave syndrome. I can't remember the whole terminology about it, but she specifically addresses the mothers. And this is what it was designed to do in code. Code just means a system of symbols or laws or rules that is codified law, right? And so these things are in our face. We have to know how to find them, but this, you can still see the impact, as you can see right here. And I don't know, I think if you put that in the chat, then people can go and do a little bit more research, because I want people to begin to think of how this is still being carried out today. And if we as women are being used to continue to perpetuate this rule of partis sequitur ventrum. Okay, so it says right here in the first paragraph, when considering slaves, colonial Virginians abandoned the English tradition of partis sequitur ventrum. One status was determined by the disposition of their father in favor of the Roman principle of partis sequitur ventrum. A child inherits the condition of the mother. Thus, the offspring of a slave woman was the property of their mother's owner, whether fathered by freemen or not. And so this is something that you should definitely go and look up more about. There's videos that I've even seen where, people are breaking it down. The impacts of it are at the bottom. It says, first, the law assured that white men, particularly the privileged ones who passed the law, who would not likely have been hauled into court for fornication, even with white women, could have sex with enslaved women, produce children who were items of capital, and never have to worry about losing their property rights in them. Okay. And so the law, on the one that says second, the law implied that every person suspected of having African blood was assumed to be a slave unless they could prove otherwise. Now, the English common law, because our system of laws is part of English common law and Roman civil law. Okay, so that's good for you guys to know when you're doing a search. And some of the English laws were abandoned, like you see here, in favor of Roman law. And we know, like I said, Roman ties back to the Roman Greco society, right? And their governance structures. Presumption in favor of freedom did not apply to Negroes in all slave states except Delaware. The presumption was that people with black skins were slaves unless they could prove that they were free. Okay, and it goes on and on and on. But number 7, this ruling once again encouraged exploitation of women in that mixed blood, often very white appearing women were kept as a slave prostitute to service white men. And you see the picture down there. And I will let everybody read this on their own because there's more to be said about that article.
This is a good article. I'm gonna have to read this on my own time, sis. This is a bomb article, and I like doing going down the rabbit hole because it even breaks down. If you read further, it even breaks down the Negro mulatto, which is half, a quadroon, 1/4 with the parent with one grandparent, an octoroon gives a great breakdown on that too. That's pretty awesome because I bet Andrew Jackson and now George Washington and now well, you guys a lot of our people running around with today Washington and Jackson and whatnot. And these was the same entities writing these laws so that they can commit all heinous act and hide their hands and say they didn't do nothing.
Yep. Because it was codified, right? They codified their wickedness to protect them. And when they saw that English common law was too easy, they didn't want that. They went in to get Roman law. But we know how wicked the Romans were. Okay. And so if you can go to the other article too, that I think that is a great resource, really thinking about how they erased the knowledge of even our patrilineal lineage. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is what is biblical, but instead the wicked codification is the mother's lineage. And so a lot of people only have the history of their mother's lineage and really don't have a robust understanding of their fathers, and that's been codified in the system.
Yep, it's also been codified with the fake book people. Because they practice that, and you ask them, "Hey, well, the book says that is the lineage is done through the father," and they can never answer you succinctly or find it in the book where it says that it's the line go through the mom. It's not there. So since you wanted me to go to, I noticed that you have another link that talks about
partis sequitur ventrum, right? And so you know that yes, you know that what they're saying is a lie because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is very clear, right? So they also, yes, you're right. They're the is it reals? I'll just call it. I'm not trying to get the channel blocked.
Say what you gotta say and let it fall where it may.
Hey, anytime you have ish on the back of a word, we don't walk around saying we're ish anything, right? So you're acting like one that is. And so I'll just put it like that. Anyway, it shouldn't be going off of the matrilineal lineage. Like you should not be going off of the mother's line. And you should be able to talk about the father's lineage in a robust way. But again, this has been in rules, in laws for long time now, partis sequitur ventrum, and that was one of the first things that was codified. And so we continue to see the impact of that law. And like you said, if you look, it really doesn't have a clear picture of when it was abolished or done away with, right? You can't really see, we don't practice that. Well, show me how you don't. Okay, because everything in society, everything in the rules that you make, everything that is according to, if you have a baby in the hospital, if the dad's not there here in California, I know that you can't say who the dad is. You know that, Brother C, right?
No, I didn't know that, sis. I didn't know that.
The father has to be physically present and prove who he is to put his name on the birth certificate, and you cannot say this is the father if that father is not there. Okay. Wow. They will just put the mother's information on the birth certificate and that's it. All right. And you can try to appeal.
But then hold on a second. But then would that woman be able to get child support if the man's not there or if he's locked up or if
they'll go. You can get child support. No, you can get child support. No. See, that's a totally different system, right? So if the name is not on the birth certificate, that doesn't matter. The district attorney or the child support bureau will prove DNA. okay, in order to collect.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
If a mother and a father say, you know what, we made a mistake, and we don't want to go after support enforcement. Now, say that mother is receiving some type of supplemental aid from the Child and Welfare Services. Well, guess what? You don't have the right to say you don't want to go after it. They're going to prove DNA, subpoena you to take your baby to get the DNA if you ask for it, and they are going to start support enforcement.
And
So
that's a
that's when
whole.
the
Go ahead.
patrilineal line matters a lot, right?
Mhm.
When it's about
Mhm.
the support enforcement. Yes.
That's a whole, but like you said, I don't want to get too far down the weeds on that because that's a whole another can of worms. Probably another show that we got some advocates or we got some sisters or brothers that's proficient in that manner. So you want me to bring up this article? Do you want me to scroll down to a particular part on
No,
it
I
says?
just wanted to share that with the people. Again, it's
You
just
drop it in the chat.
that the Rome law, which is the legal doctrine that made any child of an American female slave as well, right? And so it again reiterates that any white fathers had no financial responsibility for their progeny. And so they were free to do with the one. And so this is why I show these things. And you mentioned Thomas Jefferson, he's mentioned here. I'll just read the first part of the paragraph. They were free to rape their slaves at will, as there were no laws against that either, with no concern for any children that might come from the forced union. So a lot of people say, well, did the master care about black children that they had? No, absolutely not. They were slaves too. And they codified. Like if we have a baby with our slaves, we're raping them, guess what? That child is a slave too. And some of them built their plantations doing that. And so in fact, there was a market for mulatto and octoroon children who would be purchased to work as domestics. Some owners, Thomas Jefferson, used their half-white slaves as their concubines, okay, finding them more attractive the closer they were to white. Sally Hemings, I'm sure you guys heard of, was Jefferson's wife's half-sister, the product of her father being a slave. This is how sick and twisted this is, okay? And so, it goes on to talk about English common law and, other things that took place over the years. It says there was a growing population of free blacks in America. By the year 1810, over 10% of blacks in the upper northern states were free. And in Virginia, at the same time, just under 7% of blacks were free, mostly through manuism. And so you guys want to study more. I just wanted to leave you with something that all the way at the bottom. Partus sequitur is a Latin term, but its application was uniquely American. Okay. So, like I said, in Roman law for chattel, horses, cattle, they studied, how to take that concept meditatively, apply it for the condition of women, black women, and children in America. Is uniquely designed for that purpose. Okay. The founders codified into law a means to further dehumanize those who they enslaved, walking away from all responsibilities, another lesson in American history. And so, yes, it was about the money, and wanted to share that information. I see Notorious Hebrew says the original deadbeat dad. Yes. And then that papa and those same people that codified a way to be deadbeat dads and rape people and get away with stuff, then turning and accusing people of crimes and then trying to hold justice. They don't have a credible authority or source of information on justice or a moral compass to do it. So that being said, I wanted to just leave that there.
I do want to say that there's been one phrase that you've been saying over and over again, and you've been doing that for a reason. I know you don't do anything by accident. This is for a
Right.
reason. There's a phrase that the sister's been using that I want everybody to put in their vocabulary, and I'm pointing to it right now, called codified. Codified, the root word of that is code. So there's
Mm-hmm.
codified codes on how you need to be moving this hour, and the sister's going to teach us how we should be moving. It's not based on emotion, but it's based on how you operate within the code, within the structure that they've set up. See, if you go into a courtroom and you get out of order, they can lock your ass up without even, and never let you out again if they don't want to.
Ever.
So we need to get off of just jumping out the window. Take a step back, analyze it, take a deep breath, have a sip of tea, chamomile, relax, take a deep breath, understand how this law thing works, then you go back and attack. Don't just jump out the window. And this codified word, I'm hearing you saying it a lot. You've been saying it a lot.
I
That
say
must
that
mean
on
something.
purpose.
I
I
know you
say that
saying
on
it. I know you saying it.
purpose.
I see you, sis.
um,
I see you.
right. I
I
want
see you.
people to start to get that into their vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in American society that the white Eurocentric, they set up an estate and
Mm-hmm.
codified everything in a system of codes. And so that's a good segue into the link that says US codes on it.
Okay. I see you, sis. Don't think I don't see you. Sister
All
dropping
right.
all kinds of jewels on you left and right. And I want the family to make sure that, hey, we see you, sis. We see what's going on with this system, and we have an understanding. It's not
Right.
by accident she dropping that on all of us. Go
Right.
ahead, sis.
Right. Okay, so is that the gov.info site? Can you bring up
Yes,
the one that, okay, it is. Okay,
yes.
do you see? All right, so here's the information, right? So speaking of code, and if you look up the word etymology, let me just do that right now. If you look up the word etymology of code, you will understand what is hidden in plain sight, right? We think about coding and computers, but really looking at the way that code was set up and the measurement of symbols that match codes. If you are driving, you automatically, yeah, if you want to bring up the word etymology, that would be great. If you're driving, you automatically know that there's a red light means stop. So there's hundreds of codes that are in society that we don't have to see words with, but we know there's a rule of law attached to them because that is what we've been trained to subliminally do. Okay. You go and, see a poison symbol, you're not going to drink that item, right? So by the time a child is about 7 or 8 years old, they understand at least 200 symbols, at least, because they're in the environment every day, all day. You know what a power button means, right? You know which symbols are going to lead to consequences, right? Like if it's yellow, that light is yellow, you're going to start slowing down. Well, maybe some of the people in the chat are a little bit radical and they'll go ahead and drive through. I'm not going to assume, but for the most part, you understand there's codes that are utilized through symbols and no word has to ever be spoken. Okay. Now, if we look at the way that it is written, you see that it's a systemic compilation of laws, or law books, codex. Okay. The systemic classification of statutory laws. And then it also means tree trunk, literally, right? And so that was interesting that made up of wooden tablets was, one of the things that it meant. But there's the Proto-Indo-European, PIE is what that means. Cleaved or separate term is very interesting. And so, I wanted you guys to know. And then in 1879, we see the beginning of the meaning of code or codex or codified to mean cipher, system of signals. Okay, you hear that word? Oh, somebody blew a dog whistle. I don't hang around dogs. I hang around lions and tigers. So I say I'm not coming for the dogs. I'm not whistling for the dogs. I'm looking for the lions and tigers. Okay, but this is what America uses it as, a system of signals and rules which govern their use. Okay. And so not understanding how to decipher or decode is why we go into places where there's a codified authority and we get upset and nothing happens. It's like, oh, okay, this a laugh. People laugh. Oh, they're mad. Oh, look at, they're mad. They're back protesting and they're mad. And that has its proper place. but do we understand what our petition is? Do we understand if we're in the streets, protesting and all of that, that right comes from the First Amendment, which allows us to peaceably assemble and petition the government for a redress of our grievances? Where's the petition at? What is the demand, right? And what is the formal process for making that demand? Most people just show up and be mad, and they don't make that formal petition. So I wanted to explain that in the way of, this is the system that is ruling over and governing our moves and our lives. And it's one of signals and ciphers. And so we have to learn how to decipher it. So if you could go to the US code site, is there a pull down tab that you see, or there might be another
This is
further down?
we're at govinfo.gov. Is that the site we should be on? You want me to
Yes,
scroll down?
right.
Browse the
Okay.
United States
So
codes.
if you guys can see that, yes, if you can go all the way down so people can just have a look at that.
The flag and seal seat of government of the United States. You burn that flag up, throw that in the garbage can. But anyway,
Hey,
I'm
there's a
on
whole system of a whole cipher on that. So how many do you see there, Brother C?
Let me see.
Titles.
I'm on title 8, aliens and nationality,
Right. So
arbitration,
title,
armed forces, banks
right.
and
So
banking.
titles 20, 34, and I believe it's 42 are the ones that we're going to pay attention to. But I want people to see this system of ciphers, right? And it go down. This is the U.S. code. It is the formal codification and the code of federal regulation. So anytime you see the U.S. code cited, it's going to be U.S.C, or sometimes it's U.S and then the word code, and then they'll have a section number, and sometimes letters, right? Depending. But there should be 51 titles. Do you see 51 titles?
I see all 51. They're all here. I'm going to scroll down just for posterity's sake because
Right,
I stopped on 20. So I'm going to scroll
right,
down real fast, fam. You guys will see them scrolling on the screen. And then
right,
after that, there's years. So I guess
right.
this is the codes for the
That's
year
that's the latest one.
2021 or two, the latest and greatest, right? Yeah,
Yep. And so
2021. Gotcha.
these are the compiled laws of the United States. Okay, so every state will have its own compiled laws. Okay, and they are in subsections or titles just like this. So if you go to Title 20, that way I can show the people where the rules of engagement are. And thank you guys for hanging in. I know this is a lot of information. All right, so if you see right there, the Office of Education, and that's going to be in Chapter 1, and you're going to have every single code or law of federal regulation about education in America under Title 20 of the U.S. Code. Okay. Now, if you go to Title 34 of the U.S. Code, can you scroll down to that? I'm sorry, 32. And that's a good one, though. Crime control and law enforcement. Definitely, if you guys, if you're feeling like, oh, I need to know more about that, you can go and check this out so you can know more about what gives people jurisdiction and enforcement and how they get their money, right? It's all in these titles. Let's see, go back up a little bit. Okay, let's see. No, I'm missing it. I think it's 42. I'm sorry.
That's
And
okay.
I'm looking at it from my phone, you guys. So please bear with me on my eyes. I should. Um,
The public health and welfare, is that the one we need?
yes. Okay.
Okay,
So
we got
that's
it.
the
We got it.
one that governs child welfare, social services. A lot of that stuff you'll see in this title of the U.S. Code, and that's the same thing you see right there. The Children's Bureau, it is the same thing. And it's going to be listed differently in the Code of Federal Regulations, again, but they both say the same thing. And you can look up on the Federal Registry, and you can find all of this in the Code of Federal Regulations. And this is the system of cipher and codification. Okay. So I wanted people to start to get used to utilizing this so that we can find out, well, how is it that this person has the power to do such in this state? Why is the justice system set up in this way? Who has the ability to enforce and hold accountable? And where are the funds coming from for this entity? And what exactly do they do? Right? That is all established in this 51 titles. Okay.
You know what's interesting about this, and I'm not a political person. I say I'm apolitical. I don't give a damn about the Republicans or the Democrats.
Me
But
neither, brother.
we should understand how to move though, because this is the system that they set up. So we should know how to move and navigate the system. I will say this: when I'm always hearing them talk, because I'm tuned into what the Republican and Democrats are doing. When they're making these laws, they always cite title such and such,
Yeah.
section such and such, under chapter such and such. I never knew what they was talking about or where they got all of that. They get all that game from right here.
Right there. And so can we. Okay.
Go ahead, sis. Tell me.
And so can we. And so when they say, US Code 20, let's just say, I think it's section 2000, whatever, right? I'm able to say, yeah, but in subsection this, it says that you're supposed to amend. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
but
so
unless you know how to play that game and where to get the
exactly.
game, you're not going to be speaking the language that they understand.
Exactly. And so if you look in title US title 42 of the US Code, and we're in section 2000D, that is where the 1964 Civil Rights Act is housed. Okay.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Okay, so I'm in chapter. I'm in title 42
Go to
right now.
title. Go to title 40. You're on title 42?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What does the title of 42 say? I just want you to read it for the people.
The public health and welfare.
Okay, now go to I'm sorry, I was going to send you the link. US Code 42, section 2000 and D. So keep going down. Is going to say prohibition.
Oh, hold on a second. We're still in. Okay, so I clicked on the wrong chapter. My bad.
I was going to say, I don't see the chapter. I see it open.
That's on me. See, brother.
But see, no, this is why it's important to navigate it, right?
Yep.
And so it's important to navigate it so that you'll understand how to find it, because this drop down menu is the best way. I mean, some people that might just want to look up that one can look it up on the Department of Justice website. And you can, but you have to know how to navigate in order to do that. And so if you look under the public welfare, try to look under, right there, civil rights. That's where all of the information is housed. Okay. Just so you know. All right. And a lot of times when, like you said, you hear them saying, according to this, according to that, they only know that part. They don't always know it in entirety. So legislators are not, I don't know if you guys realize it or not, but it didn't require a special degree to do what they do.
Right, but look at this comment. What the sister said though, because this is pertinent, and see, this is why more of our people, especially if you go and become an advocate, you need to know how to navigate this. Because when they spit something saying, well, we're doing this under title ABC, chapter 20, section 1981 to 2008, it says this, right, but you're only saying part of it. You're not giving all the information.
Exactly. You're giving section 2000D. But what about the other sections? Right? And so that's the way we get I would kind of bamboozled every time, because someone comes out and says, well, you're violating this, and that. And because we don't know the whole content or the fullness of what is being said, a lot of times people will agree, yeah, I did that, because they're intimidated by the terminology that's being thrown out at them. Okay. And so this is important. It's important, and I know. Yeah.
No. Go ahead, sis. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
So, Kelly, Michael Yah says their laws never go away. Yeah, they know how to build upon these codifications. That's why you see different years.
And see, Israelites have been able to decode the most because it was given to you and it's in your DNA to decode it. But you decoded the book, okay? Surely this stuff that we looking at right here, and shalom to you, brother Elisha, peace and blessings to you, bro, peace and blessings. These laws and these statutes and all of this stuff that they've quote codified or put in a cipher, it's easy for us to decode this.
Yes, once you,
This is
yeah.
easy. This is easy. Once you, but see, you have to know where it is to go get it. And they'll never tell you, well, hey, you're not really violating that. And I just say this to you because I know you don't know where to go get the information to combat what I'm saying.
Right. And so that brings me around to all these practices and policies have law enforcement agencies over them. Okay. So if you can go to the link because the people that are every day working in these agencies are just doing, what the system of cipher is telling them to do, right? But there are law enforcement agencies that are supposed to watch over to make sure that this happens in that way. And so we need to look at who those are. And so if you can go to the OJJDP link that I sent you, and we're going to start with the juvenile justice.
Got it.
All right. So anybody can see right there, and this is where the terminology changes. So watch it, right? The Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act of 1974, Public Law 93-415, but that's under a title. Okay. So I want you guys to know that that's under the U.S. Code for Title 42 in Section 5601.
So that's going back. That's going back to this. That's going
It's
back to
going
this right
back
here.
to that, right?
Okay. Let's go there. Let's go there in real time.
Okay.
Let's go there in real time.
You can put in Public Law 93-415 in your Google chat, and it'll take you right back to the Code of Federal Regulations or the U.S. Code.
Y'all hear that, fam? So you can get to it more than a number of ways because all these databases connect now through AI, whether you know it or not. And like I always tell y'all, Google is your God. So you might as well use your God to the best of your abilities and have him do what he should be doing. Anyway, let's keep going.
And so right here is the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act as amended in 1974, Act of 1974, but Public Law 93-415 established the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. Now, they make that sound good, don't they? Mm-hmm. Oh, we're preventing, and if you go all the way down, you'll see all of this is an office under the United States Department of Justice, okay? So you'll be able to see all of the entities funded and involved in the juvenile justice and delinquency prevention of our children. Okay. And those councils and committees are a way that you can tap in, right? Because those are made up of normal we have what I call the White Citizens Council, and they got these things on lock. And that's why, they're like on these committees and making these rules, and they're definitely going to be weaponized against us and our children. Okay. And so you can look at those in your area or either, those that are national or form your own to oversee. It's citizens oversight. We're a citizens oversight committee because we know that Black kids are the most impacted in this neighborhood. And so we're going to watch you. There's a lot of watch organizations that watch when children are going to court. And then show up to make sure that the application of law is in the right way. Things are not being added. Files are not being padded. People that are Freedom of Information Act requesting, records that they can see, even if they're redacted, to find out if things have been added in, and trust and believe they're adding things into our children's records and files.
Y'all see these organizations that's connected to Coordinating Council on Juvenile Justice and Delinquency. Look at these organizations. Why is ICE connected to it?
Hmm.
Homeland Security, the USDA, the food people. They supposed to be over food and drug, right? Is that not them? The USDA, the Department of Labor, the Department of Housing,
Department of
Department of
Education.
Education, Department of Health and Human Services. And they got their own, each one of them got their own icons, but they all wicked as hell. U.S. Department of the Interior, Department of Defense. What's that got to do with justice for our children
Yep.
and the
And
juvenile
prevention.
system? Yeah, no. I see. Here's what the deal is. The deal is not to enact these laws and to set these laws up for your prevention or for your betterment. No, it's to keep you in a box and to keep you enslaved. That's what these are.
Yeah,
And
this
that's
is
what these organizations are. Go ahead, sis. I'm
the
sorry.
slave patrol. Okay.
Yep.
But for children.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted you guys to see that, because when I say this is a heavy lift and battle, it is. And they are betting on the race on winning. Like I said, it's more than just the race of skin color, like, race to the top, who's what Kentucky Derby type mentality, right? And setting us up for destruction on all sides. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be cautious of USDA managing and running the EBT and SNAP program, but they're also heavily invested in juvenile justice and delinquency prevention.
Mm. Which to me is juvenile enslavement of our people.
Right.
Getting them to what Anonymous, exactly what Anonymous is saying, the prison system. I heard
Exactly.
some heathen said, sorry for interrupting you, says I'll
Okay.
be very brief. Some
No, go ahead.
heathen said, and I just saw this, it came up on my timeline, to whereas our schools are nothing but a prison pipeline. And it was a heathen that said this.
That's true. And so if we were to look at the academic outcomes, and there is a website and it's called NAEP, NAEP. Okay.
We can get that in a
And
second. We'll get that.
you can go
We'll
with
get
that.
that. We'll get
Yep.
that.
NAEP. And sometimes you hear it, oh, where are they getting this data, right? And what are they collecting it for? And it's the Nation School Report Card. And once you disaggregate the data nationally, it shows that Black children have not progressed in the school system for over 20 some odd years. And I challenge even that, because they haven't progressed since Brown versus Board of Education. Okay. And, people try to shift the narrative and blame it on them. It's because they're a behavior problem. They're delinquent. They need juvenile justice and prevention. Maybe they need more food. Let's get the USDA in there. Hurry, calm them down. Go get them some food.
Am
Or
I
maybe
am I at
the,
the, am I at the
yeah.
right NAPE, sis? Is this the right one?
Let me see the top.
NAPEequity.org. This is the wrong one, right? This is the
No,
wrong one.
yeah, that's it. All of these are gonna say .gov on them. So if you
Okay.
type in nationsreportcard.gov, you'll be able to see this, and the data is very clear. And this is where the people that are talking about the school to prison pipeline are getting the data from. And if you look at it as the literacy rates, they're really, according to what I see, someone keeps putting in Jim Crow laws or the Black codes or the slave codes, right? Because it is a punishable crime to teach Black children how to read and write. And that's permeated throughout the school system, because what do we have? More than 50% of them can't even read or write at grade level and are functionally illiterate when they graduate.
So when did they repeal that then?
They repealed what? The slave codes?
No, when did they repeal the ability for us to read and write, or give us the ability to read and write?
They never have.
Okay, so then it's okay because they're operating under the codified code of law. It's okay for them to do that
Exactly.
then.
It's okay. And they fund themselves under the codification, because the codification is not just a system of ciphers and law. It's also a mechanism for them to fund these entities to do the work.
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
Okay.
We have been whew, this war is much bigger than what I think all of us Israelites realize. But guess what, fam? Here's what I don't want you to do. Don't feel like, and the sister has taken on the weight of this. Don't feel like what we're seeing is a daunting thing. Because somewhere in the book, my father says that these things are small things, but we
Yep.
need to get activated. We, brother C, you need to get activated. I'm putting it on me. And I hope that each and every one of y'all in the chat is putting it upon you, that the Father is pressing you to say, hey, I got to get activated. Because this is what this conversation is all about. It's not just about talking about who shot John, us beating up on the heathen, or who we are. We passed the point of we know who we are. We know that Deuteronomy 28 pertains to us and that
Right.
book is ours. So we passed that now. It's time to stop talking and get off your rump, brother C, and do something.
Right.
Go
And
ahead,
so
sis. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
we see a web surrounding our children, right? And trying to make sure they don't get entangled in it is a heavy lift and requires all of us. Like I continue to say, I'm here to let you know the information about the system of codification. I fight for children every day through the use of code and law, right? To get them out. But beyond that, it requires the community, the family, to wrap our arms around them and keep them out or keep them from this imprisonment that's in the web. It's surrounding them, right? And so if you go to the next thing that says child services, so yes, this is Nate. You can look up your state's report card, but it's not going to be different than here in California. Here in California, 85% of Black children can't do math at grade level, and 70% can't read or write at grade level, and it doesn't matter their income. So let's just say that. Okay, we're fighting a battle here, we're fighting a battle everywhere, but we keep on asking the wicked heathen Gentiles to come and do what they don't want to do and what they've patted themselves from having to not do in the first place, because they have their system of rules and laws and regulations. They fund themselves, and you know what? We don't care if 85% of Black kids can't do math and 70% can't read or write. We'll wait another 5 to 10 years and see if that moves about another percent down. That's the urgency by which they move. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But the
Um,
idea that, and I'm gonna point the blame on us on this one. The idea that if someone says, and I saw Larry Elder was on my timeline for some odd reason, and he was reading something about how we make education, and those of us that are smart and educated, which there's bazillions of us, it's not an isolated incident, but we will say that, hey, you're trying to be white, or you because you're trying to sound smarter, you're trying to be smarter, you're reading that you're trying to be white. I think we're past that point.
yeah.
And I think we're past the point of our people are thirsty for knowledge, and we're gaining knowledge, and we're getting knowledge not only of our culture, because that was a big signal. Returning back to your culture was a major thing. Now that you return back to your culture and you look at your history, you are definitely the hidden ones. And so I do want to make this clear that we're no longer preaching the idea or the fact that, Larry Elder, you liar, that our people are saying, hey, you're trying to be white because you're trying to read. No, this was part of our heritage long ago. And we
Right.
built every construct. So it's time out for that kind of thinking,
And
if
we
I may
have to
say
be
that.
very, yeah, we got to be very clear when people say things like that. We had a
Mm-hmm.
system of language. We didn't speak English. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
And so for them to try to say we didn't know how to read or write at all, that's a lie. We had
Mm.
our own language. We didn't speak English, which was forced upon us.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
And so that's why they codified everything from English and Roman law. And so you'll see Latin phrases, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that wasn't our language. So anybody trying to teach a slave how to speak and decode English, let's just say it that way, was subject to harsh consequences.
Hmm. Yeah,
And we,
and then
yeah.
not to mention that they didn't want you. Don't get caught reading.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Don't you dare get caught reading.
Mm-mm. And so I see Michael Yaw says the hegemony of crafty counsel, truth, the truth.
Hmm.
And that's what I posed the question. The truth will set you free, but what are you going to be free to do? What?
Hmm.
Right? With that information that you get, when you get the truth as it comes, you should be putting it into direct action. There should be an action there that exists. And I'm talking to myself too. I practice till I master. I don't go out thinking I know everything. I pray for wisdom and discernment, understanding, and that the Most High will prepare my hands and my fingers for war and battle. And I just do it, rely on that and continue to learn as I go,
Sis, I'm gonna
along the
stop
way.
you. I'm gonna stop, sis. I'm sorry. I must interrupt you.
That's
Please
okay.
forgive me. Father,
No,
please
it's
forgive
okay.
me for interrupting her. Can you please repeat that again about preparing your hands for what? Please repeat that again, please. I want the family to hear this again. Please
Preparing
repeat that.
my hands for war and my fingers for battle. That's a skill that Abraham went and got his trained brethren. Okay. It's not something that we just wake up and one day think is like, oh, we're gonna wake up the best warrior and be able to go into this war zone and do this. No, this is something that grows and multiplies as you use it. That's why Yeshua was upset about the one that hid the talent.
Hmm.
Why'd
Hmm.
you bury that? You
Hmm.
could have at least got some kind of return,
Right? Right. I
right?
do want to say shalom, 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 brother Yash. Peace and blessings to you, brother. Hope you're well. Hope the Father's been keeping you. Sis, here's what we're going to do. We're approaching, we're like
Yeah.
9 minutes away from three
Okay.
hours. And so
Yeah.
here's what we're going to do. We're gonna have you back on again next week because I want to make sure that we do this. We give not only put all the information out there, but this is gonna activate some people.
Mm-hmm.
My prayer is that everybody in the chat, everybody that watches this video, everybody that goes to Salt of the Earth, don't tell them to don't tell your family to go watch Salt of the Earth. Tell your family about the sister. Tell your family about our sister that's doing the Harriet Tubman type and like work. And I'm gonna put her, here's her website, boldentities.com. Here's the sister's website. The sister's not playing around. And she hasn't been playing around. And so it's time out for Israel just sitting on their behind, sitting on your rump and not doing nothing. You had your playtime when you was playing church. And since you no longer play church around here, and here's the sister's information right here. Her name is Christina Laster.
Yeah, you can Google me.
You can Google her. I'm gonna put that in there too. We will put all this in there. Why are we putting this? Why are you putting this in there, brother? See, you don't have to, if you're affiliated with another channel, you don't have to put that other channel's tell them Salt of the Earth sent you or none of that. What I want you to do is, hey, get in contact with our sister. And then you go from there. Salt of the Earth don't have to play middleman. If you're affiliated with a bigger platform or with other platforms, point them to our sister. Because everybody that's claiming their culture, we need to be a light and set an example for the rest of our brothers and sisters. We need to be, the Israelites need to be the one that's saying that, yeah, the Israelites, they was there. Yeah, I seen that brother see with his silly looking self with that long beard. I seen him. He was an advocate. I seen my sister Christina. I seen my brother Barry. I seen my brother Najee, my brother Yash, my sister Omayah. Please do.
And
Please.
I
Go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
appreciate that. I appreciate that because right now I just launched the legal defense initiative so that I can start to train people because this is getting so big. I do this in English and in Spanish. Okay. That's how big it's gotten. And it's a lot of work. And my primary responsibility is to my community. And I let everybody know that my primary responsibility are to Black children. Now, if you want to take the information that I have, produced and share it with your community and advocate in that direction, then by all means, I have stuff all about the school to prison pipeline, about special education, about different ways you can advocate. But I go out and do this every day. So you'll see me. That's where you'll find me with groups of kids. As a matter of fact, we'll be going to Sacramento on the 11th with a large group of kids to advocate for them, for Black children. And so, all the help, resources, whatever people can do, even if you're the person that says, I want to help your research, that's help. That's help. That's helping set children free. And so I appreciate that. And it is a lot. I know we did 3 hours. People can find videos on my page where I go over some of this stuff too.
Okay, so sis, I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue a part 2 to this if it's okay with you,
That's
where
fine.
we can continue, because I think you'll be able to see where we left off, and I know that
Yes.
we were running through slides and there were links that we put up. Family, here's what we're going to do. We're gonna cut off now because we're approaching 3 hours, and we're gonna have the sister on again so that she can continue to give us this wisdom and knowledge. It's not by accident that the Father was pressing this upon me and pressing it on my mind. And it's not by accident that the sister boldly, because we ask y'all all the time, hey, y'all can hit the link to the channel and jump in and jump on and speak your piece. And the
My
sister was
father,
persistent. Go ahead, sis.
Brother C, my father just sent me a text message reminding me I'll be flying back home from New York on next first day of the week.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you want to do a evening session, but I could do that. I'll be getting off the plane, so I don't know if we could do an evening session on that day.
We can do an evening session on that day. We can be
Okay.
flexible. I mean, we do
Okay.
KC. KC is scheduled for 8, but if you tell me what the schedule is, we can communicate via email. We can move it to
Yes.
that time. Because
And
this is important. This is
yes.
important.
And shout out to my dad. He's like the person that trains me in person and live and in effect for warfare and has my whole life. And so he's watching this, and I'm grateful for everything that he has taught me.
Peace and blessings to your earthly dad and your earthly mother. Peace and blessings to the elders. Rochelle, peace and blessings to your mom. Tell mom we said hello. Tell mom we ain't forgot about her. We still love mom over here. Tell her we said hello. And
Yeah,
and
my
to all
parents.
to all everybody's parents that's
Yes.
still here. My parents aren't no longer walking this
Um,
particular plane, but they still alive on the other plane, and we get to see them at some point. I'm not
yeah,
tripping, but to the ones that are still here, we need to venerate them, because we've gotten away from that too. That's another thing we've gotten away from, is
right.
venerating our elders, because maybe they in Christianity, maybe they into something, or maybe they did drop the ball. I'm saying to you, I'm saying to the young stars right now, yes, my generation did drop the ball. My generation did, but now we need to pick the ball back up and we need to run with it, because the race is not given to the swift, that per the book say, but everybody already running. If we're not
Right.
running, we just standing at the starting line looking at each other saying, okay, dude, where do we go? Where do we go? So sis, we'll communicate with email, we'll get the thumbnail up, and we're gonna pick up where we left off. But fam, here's the thing. Don't let this information go in one ear and out the other.
Please don't.
We need to get activated. We need to be active, and we need to be getting off our rump, and we need to be getting busy. It's time out for you just talking. And y'all know that we not about just bumping our gums. We got to have something tangible to say. When you go before the Father gonna say, hey, didn't I tell you to do so and so? Well, how come you didn't do it? When he play back on that big screen, that big giant 5,000 screen TV that he gonna play back your life on, because everybody gonna see what they did and what they didn't do, because everything is written in books. They're gonna be able to play it back, run it back to you. Well, how come brother C, how come you didn't bring that sister on so she could talk about advocacy? Why did you forget about? Why didn't you bring the information that I told you? Brother C, why didn't you do what I was telling you to do? I done gave you, brother C, 10 talents, and you run around talking about you a procrastinator. See, I'm throwing myself under the bus. I throw
Right.
myself under the bus before y'all all the time, because you know why? I can't point a finger at y'all. Y'all know individually where y'all at with what y'all supposed to be doing. And it's time out for talk. It's time for action. I say this. I'm gonna say this to y'all, and then I'm gonna let it go. We're gonna close out. You better be doing something before that X happens. And I'm gonna leave it at that. And y'all know what that X is. Y'all know that we done had one line of the X drawn across the United States. There's another line that's going to complete the X in 2024. You see the Father is moving, and he's not playing with these nations. You do not want to get caught up with them. You're in the belly of the beast. You do not want to partake of her plagues. So you better get active.
And we definitely ain't taking the beast systems teachers with us to educate our children either when we, so think about that, right? What is being established and united here?
That's right. So sis, I'm gonna run your banner for the last time. There's the sister's website at the bottom. There's the email at the bottom. There's her YouTube channel. If you know of any other larger Israelite platforms and you know that person on a first name basis, or you've been participating with them, don't even mention Salt of the Earth. You have the links to the sister site. Point them to the sister site and say, hey, look, have this sister on your channel. Have this sister talk about everybody, every Israelite being an advocate with not only their word, with their actions. Their actions being your time and your talent and your resources. Time is the most important thing that you have. And then your time is spent on getting money. Spend some of your money on this. Go ahead and pledge. Put here, click on that button right there. How does that work? Pledge. Well, I pledge. I'm pledging something. You got Venmo here. You got a link here where you can go pay Venmo. Huh? That's what the family, we need to stick together, family. It's not just about building your IPs, but this is sister IP. So sis, I'm gonna let you have the last words, and then we're gonna close out, and then we're gonna convene again next week.
And so I just want to close with wisdom is justified by her children. And I want people to be really thinking about what exactly that means in context. And wisdom is vindicated by all her children. And so we must be not only just knowing, but very wise. Wisdom is a defense. Money is a defense. Knowledge helps us use them both very well. And I'll leave with that.
And fam, this has been another Salt of the Earth. Wrong place, sir.
Thank you.
Another Salt of the Earth production. Every time I always tell y'all at the end, you Israelites ain't saved, so you need to get saved, Israel.